Hello everyone! We're back again with another stream of love, money, rock and roll. Everything's good? There was an update to my computer yesterday, so I'm afraid that messed everything up, but I guess not, as far as I can see. Today at some point I'll be leaving to sign a quick package, so if I leave unexpectedly and randomly, that's the reason why, alright? Sounds good? But yeah, last time, I learned there's definitely a big threat in the air, and Himitsu here, I think is like a part of it somehow. Definitely your dad is. Just all sorts of crazy things going on. But today is Valentine's Day, and hopefully today I can find love. But right now we're just swapping like recipes or something. Alright, let's begin again, guys. Mostly because of her, but I'd also brought some myself. Bought some. It's not like I did anything weird. No, it's just, thank you. We were drinking tea slowly, and probably we were both happy to keep silent for a while and gather our thoughts. Naturally, I had to forgive her, otherwise we'd never get out of this deadlock. I was just concerned that it might give Himitsu a sense of impunity. After all, she had always been a good girl. Obeyed her parents and teachers, respected her elders, was a role model for younger children, and lived an almost exemplary life. And if it so happened that she was wrong about something, or God forbid found guilty of anything, it would always hit Himitsu hard. That was why my forgiveness was subconsciously so important to her. But to me, it was important that it didn't come too easily. Unlike Catherine always paid too much attention to what they referred to in English as appearance. At the same time, she couldn't care less whether others perceived her as good or evil. Hey Eliza! How you doing today? It's good to see ya. Are you ready for more of this insane, crazy game, Eliza? 'Cause I know I am. And happy Valentine's Day to you, by the way. Hope whatever love is going on in your life goes well. Tired but otherwise good? That's good. Heck yeah. Right or wrong, virtuous and deeply vicious. Respect was all that mattered to her. And tyrants are respected as much as prophets. I assume she didn't think about the reasons, be it worship, fear, or love. I'm doing good. I'm waiting for my package to arrive and for Tomb Raider to download. And hey Finn, how you doing? Welcome to the stream. Welcome to the visual novel. Happy Valentine's Day to you too. Think about the reasons, be it worship, fear, or love. Yay! That's what I say, yeah. Today's gonna be big, exciting. In a way, these two girls represented two philosophical opposites to me. Idealism and materialism, altruism and egoism, platonic love and friendship, carnality, sexual desire, even lust. Oh dear. Earth to Nico-kun! Himitsu said timidly. The tea had time to grow a little colder. I can't forgive you. I went silent for a moment and continued right away in order to avoid a cheap theatrical pause. A good and new happy Valentine's Day's back. Thank you. Yeah, I'm doing good. I'm hyped for this day, and it's gonna be a good one. I feels. Because I wasn't upset with you in the first place. Really? She raised her huge green eyes at me, and I could see a spark of hope in them. Sure, just put yourself in my shoes. How would you react? Of course I was surprised. Did you wrote that wrong? V-A-L-I-T-A-N-Z days. Yeah, it's a little bit wrong, but that's not an easy word to spell, to be honest. It took me years, Finn, to learn to spell Valentine's Day. I thought it was Valentine's Day for the longest time. So, you're good. You are good, my friend. But promise that there will be no secrets between us from now on. I promise. Himitsu said solemnly. Well, it's pretty late already. You can tell your father that nothing unusual happened at Anokin's place today. I grinned good-naturedly. I definitely will. Himitsu responded, but clearly didn't intend to leave. In Germany, it's named Valenstag. Interesting. That's pretty cool. Do you celebrate it today too? I'm not planning to sleep, but that doesn't mean you have to sit up with me. She hesitated, but in the end stood up. Good night. See you tomorrow. Good night. Saw her to the door. Hope that Himitsu believed I had forgiven her. To me, however, this was just the beginning. Hey, Mafia babe. What's up? Welcome to more of this game. And happy Valentine's Day to ya. Yeah, you celebrated today too in Germany? Awesome. Well, let's make it a good one, eh? Fortunately, over the last couple of hours, I had managed to calm down and come up with a plan. Without unnecessary hesitation, I grabbed the receiver and dialed the number I had memorized. I didn't get a reply right away. After all, it was past midnight. Good evening. I'm sorry to bother you so late, but I need to know if Agawa-san is at home. A sleepy voice grumbled, "You got the wrong number," and I began to wait. The telephone bell pierced the silence of my house only half an hour later. Shino-san ordered a delivery to this address. Sorry, you got the wrong number. Isn't this... He spelled my phone number with one digit off. No, it's... My sincere apologies. Have a good night. I didn't know if petty tricks like this would work on KGB agents or Japanese intelligence, but I soon realized Ichinose would be waiting for me at the same spot on the waterfront, and I already know how to escape the house without attracting any attention. It was time to go to bed then. This time I felt calmer sneaking through the streets of my district. Wrote it wrong again. It's fine. Everyone does. But yeah, today in this game we're going to find love. Right, Mafia Babe? Today we're going to find love in this game and not get killed. That's the big goal of today. If Himitsu had done everything right, I had nothing to fear from Japanese intelligence. I hadn't noticed KGB agents following me even once, and I wasn't even sure if they truly were watching me. As for Kobayashi Corporation, heck yeah. Who could guarantee that the corporation and Japanese Secret Service weren't pursuing the same goal? The last train had left long ago, but luckily taxis were available 24 hours a day. I just needed to dial an easy memorized number. Hey Kato Kyle, what's up? Good to see you again as well. Am I playing Among Us? Every Friday, Finn. Every Friday I stream Among Us. And Friday is in 2 days, I believe. So in 2 days, Finn, we'll be here. We'll be streaming the Among Us's. Last train left a long time ago. Blah, blah, blah. The car came pretty fast, and less than an hour later I found myself on the waterfront. Oh! I could see a dim light of a cigarette in the darkness, and a familiar slumping silhouette appeared next to the silver moonlight. Ichinose-san? I called fearfully, still afraid of having made a mistake. Were you expecting someone else? He came closer and smiled in an excessively friendly manner. You seem to be in a good mood. Have you been waiting long? Does it matter? I guess not. Did something happen, Nikolai? I hope you understand that getting in contact with me over some trifling matter is risky for you in the first place. Valentine Day. It could be how you spell it in the Germanys. You did it. You did good. if only it was a trifle. I sighed. So what's it about? Ichinose-san, be honest with me. Have you told me the whole truth? I simply don't know the whole truth. He replied and immediately lit another cigarette. But you aren't hiding anything, right? Perhaps at first I was worried. I definitely was. But now anger took over. I was angry as much at this old man than I was at the people forcing us to be out here now, hiding in the night like criminals. I was angry at the people who took my parents away from me, destroyed my daily life, and turned me into a goddamn schizophrenic. I really want to believe that's not the case. Tell me what's on your mind already, because my face flinched involuntarily, and tears welled up in my eyes. After all, going through this on your own and sharing my inner turmoil with another person were not one and the same. Could be better. Whatever's going on, get betters. Hopefully this stream will make everything betters to all in chat. It's hard for me to think you knew of Japanese intelligence and hid it from me. Japanese intelligence? He didn't look particularly surprised, but took a half a step to the side. My best friend's father, the girl I spent my whole life with, her father works for Japanese intelligence. Have fun, you're gonna go. Bye, Finn. See you either tomorrow or Friday. Whatever day you want to visit. Have an awesome, awesome day. And happy Valentine's. More importantly, he's been spying on my family since we arrived in Japan. Nikolai, I had no idea. I really want to believe that you didn't. Of course, it's obvious that Japanese intelligence is well informed about the project and had been monitoring people involved in it. But I had never thought, Nikolai, tell me more. There isn't much to tell. I happened to learn about it by accident. It's just hard to accept that a person who has been your neighbor all your life, a person who you trusted, turned out to be someone you should never trust under any circumstances. I smirked sadly. Was I really talking about Ryunosuke-san? Frankly speaking, we were never particularly close. Rather, I was afraid of him. A strict neighbor and your girlfriend's father? It's a great cover, as it turns out. What about a childhood friend? Was that a good cover? Nikolai, that is terrible, I realize, of course, but... Ichinose glanced around as if gathering his thoughts rather than checking for any hidden threats. How much does he know? This isn't just about you, after all. Well, he definitely hasn't gotten anything from me. Only because I don't know anything about anything myself. At least I didn't a week ago. But you do now. What's so criminal about what I know? He looked at me closely, as if he were about to say something, but remained silent. Ichinose-san? Nikolai, such a betrayal is certainly terrible, but you do realize that they have been spying on more or less all the important people in the project, right? And most likely for a long time now, the question is how closely they have been watching. To be frank, I had no idea your father was of so much interest to all these intelligence agencies. Freaking Frank. Why? Because we were just regular staff members. But he was Russian. How could a Russian be allowed to work on such a secret project in the first place? Not that I had given some thought before, but not from the point of view of Japan's national security. He must have had some knowledge that our local specialist didn't possess. Like what? Ichinose went silent for a while and seemed to be staring through me, trying to make something out in the gloom of the night. Like the Soviets' understanding of the fourth generation intercontinental ballistic missiles. I didn't know how to respond to that. Nikolai, I'm only telling you this because... He sighed heavily. Well, I guess I can't make things any worse by now. Ichinose smiled sadly and continued. Besides, your father wasn't informed of every detail. Unlike Akira Shinji. I interrupted him. Unlike Akira Shinji. By the way, I happen to know his daughter, little Kagome. I feel sorry for her. What an interesting coincidence that it was that we happened to study at the same school. Well, I wouldn't call her little now, but you two are in similar situations, except for the fact that her father might still be alive. Let's hope he is. BRB, alrighty. A cold wind blew from the shore. Dark leaden clouds were approaching us from the east, bringing with them heavy rain and morning fog. It's already late, Nikolai. Ichinose looked at me somehow sympathetically. Late for what? From another point of view, it might be too early. And what does it even matter what time it is? What am I supposed to do now? I can't trust anyone anymore. It's not even so much about Kobayashi Corporation or your damn project. It's about... I didn't finish the sentence because there wasn't much sense in it. Ichinose could only sympathize with me, and even more for the sake of politeness, as he couldn't fully understand my situation and circumstances. We good? Are we good, though? Are we good? I'm glad we're good. Glad all is good. He couldn't put himself in my shoes. And I was disgusted by that sort of routine sympathy. Just like at my parents' funeral, familiar and unfamiliar people would approach me and give their condolences. The men would give me a firm handshake, the women would wipe off their tears with handkerchiefs or softly pat me on the shoulder, and then everyone just left me alone in that huge empty house with my grief and sorrow, and only Himitsu was near. No feelings like that couldn't be faked. The question was whether she could combine them with fulfilling her duty to the motherland. I laughed. Ichinose-san, can you see the state I'm in? I suspect my own childhood friend, practically a sister, of being a spy. I can already imagine her taking the oath and marching with a gun on her shoulder. It's over. I can't keep on living, pretending nothing happened, living like normal. And I hadn't even told Ichinose about the conversation with Irina. Something was stopping me from doing it. After all, it wasn't him that the KGB threatened. Even though we were being spied on before, at least I didn't know. Now, what happens now? I wish I could help you, Ichinose said heavily. But in any case, you should worry about yourself first, not about your friend. It's easy to say that. Indeed, during the last 24 hours, Himitsu had been of more concern to me than my own safety. And if you don't give them a reason, they won't have one. He smiled and took a few steps back. You should return home before sunrise to avoid raising suspicion. You're right, I guess. We bid each other farewell, and I walked to the nearest telephone pole to call a taxi. I had to wait a while. I wasn't in the center of Tokyo, after all, so by the time the car arrived, I was chilled to the bone. Brrr. The sun began to rise behind the window, but my thoughts about my conversation with Ichinose kept me from falling asleep. Ballistic missiles? Was it that serious? Really, the words just sounded menacing. Missiles, bridges, what did it matter to me? It's been clear for a while that he hadn't been making toys there. I wondered if Himitsu was in danger. After all, everyone knows what they did to useless soldiers in ancient Japan. Mafia babe, am I gonna die? Am I dead? Circadian rhythms and the internal clock are powerful things. No matter how much I loved to sleep, unless I was hungover, I'd usually wake up at more or less the same time anyway, even if I'd gone to bed early in the morning. Of course, I could have buried myself in my bed and kept on sleeping, but Himitsu would soon arrive, which meant I needed to get up anyway. Die? Probably not. Emotionally in pain? Most likely. Alright. I'm excited. I can't wait to die from emotional pain. Woo! On the other hand, I had clearly had sleep issues. But where was Himitsu? I reluctantly got up and walked into the kitchen, but there was no one there. I doubted she'd be playing hide-and-seek with me. Hope that nothing happened to her. When you fall asleep anxious, you have disturbing dreams and spend the whole night in anticipation of the morning, just to open your eyes and immediately remember all your worries. PS is having a sale. PlayStation is having a sale, and all the games you want help you. Just turn it off, look at the stream, focus on the story, and just don't think about it. And then when the stream is over, then, I guess, cry, I guess. That's what I do as well. Immediately do the worries. Still, I really wanted Himitsu nearby. Just to sit together, eat breakfast, have a cute chat about nothing, wait until she was done with washing dishes, then go to school. Perhaps she was busy with something. After all, she had her own life, didn't she? I was worried but tried to wave my thoughts away. Just a week ago, what am I saying? 2 days ago, I wouldn't have placed any importance on it. Whether she did come or didn't, neither option would be surprising. I had no desire to make breakfast and wasn't particularly hungry anyway, so I needed to prepare for school, partly because I'd see Himitsu there today. I would, right? We're going to school! Are you in school right now, Mafia babe? Is your school doing any Valentine's Day bull crap? I mean, cool things. You need to get 100 worth, but you need $20 left. You don't know what else there is. I don't know how to help you there, my friend. Sorry. Not that I wasn't used to going to school without her, but it felt different from when I knew in advance that Himitsu wouldn't be there or when I didn't want to see her. No Valentine stuff, thank God. Aww. Back in the day, I think we got cards? I don't know. Hundreds of irrelevant details that I would never notice otherwise jumped to my attention. Piles of rotting leaves here and there, rubbish outside stores, the decayed water pipes, and the weird stench coming out of an alley. When Himitsu was around, I was usually occupied by a conversation with her. When I was alone, my own thoughts took over. But now I was overtaken by an oppressive anxiety, a condition where your perception is painfully sharp, all senses working at 110%. Walked into the classroom right before the bell, but that didn't stop Kyosuke from bombarding me with questions. Well, hello there. How was your weekend? Worse than yours, I'm sure. Wanna bet? I, for one, don't live across from Himitsu-chan. Speaking of Himitsu, has she dropped by? I tried to sound as disinterested as I could to avoid any extra questions from him. No, I haven't seen her today. Why? No, nothing. Didn't you see her over the weekend? I did. I saw her yesterday. So why? He wouldn't let up. You want to know everything, don't you? My pudgy friend clearly wanted to ask something else, but the bell saved me from further interrogation. This music is very strange. Even in better times, I found it difficult to focus on lessons, and now I couldn't think about them at all. Catherine came to school, but didn't give any indication that our relationship had changed, that we were friends now. No doubt those were all empty words, a non-aggression pact in the absence of a peace treaty. I wasn't inclined to diplomacy and pointless formalities by nature, so this whole thing of trying to play polite with Katya made me feel doubly disgusted. I don't want a peace treaty, by the way. I want a peach treaty. On the other hand, it was easier that way. During the break, I unthinkably headed for Himitsu's class. Are we friends with Katya? Good question. I don't know at the moment. Right now we're focusing, I think, on surviving and stuff. And Himitsu. Eventually we'll be friends with Katya. Probably. Oh god, look who it is. Nobody was surprised to see me, and I approached Saya straight away. After all, we talked almost normally after karaoke. Hi, is Himitsu? She went out somewhere. Well, at least she was alive. Wait, did I really think that something had happened to her? Didn't you come to school together? Her face immediately expressed curiosity. Persona 5 is on sale. Never played those. Ooh, go for it. It's tough, though. But the story is good. No. I replied briefly. I had no desire to lie or come up with excuses now. Should I tell her that you dropped by? No need. We'll find each other anyway. We'll find each other anyway. I appreciated her effort to be polite and smiled at her. See you. Even Saya-chan was behaving relatively strangely. In order to calm down somewhat and collect my thoughts, I went to the roof. That was the only place in this school where I could have some time alone. The only thing that I didn't consider was that the roof had already been booked by Kagome. Oh, I haven't seen her in a while. She was standing at the rail and looking out into the distance. I indicted my presence coming closer. She reluctantly looked askew in my direction, then returned to observing a weekly afternoon in Tokyo. Her indifference even hurt me a bit. Not going to interrogate me? Why bother? Good, because I have nothing to tell you. I paused, waiting for her reaction, but Kagome kept on ignoring me. Nothing at all. You'd think that Iwamura would leave right away, but she kept standing there as if she didn't even notice my presence. It had become considerably colder over the last week, and here on the roof a cold, bone-chilling wind was blowing. It was the first time this year that I felt winter coming. Winter! Not the romance of the golden autumn with its red and yellow days, but November's cold dampness that would strip bark off trees and freeze the earth to its roots. The jackets of our school uniform were warm enough, but I had to think about taking my winter clothes out of the wardrobe. The house was incomparably bigger than the old apartment we had back in the Soviet Union, so I had enough space for storing things. Japanese people probably don't even know what entressols are, a necessary part of any Soviet dwelling. Wall cabinets located right under the ceiling, common for many apartments in the USSR and modern-day Russia. Well, there you have it. Anything can be stored in them, from books to toys, from winter clothes to car parts, from grandfather's typewriter to the Zinger sewing machine that used to belong, I think, to my great-grandfather. You own a PS4 copy of Shadow of the Colossus, you own PS2 and PS3. Up to you. I never played Shadow of the Colossus, so I can't say anything about that game, but Persona 5 is quite good. If you like, hard combat. Besides, they clearly didn't obey the laws of physics, and hid more stuff behind their squeaky doors that their actual sizes allowed for. So long. Kagome said eventually as I was left alone. All the best to you, too. The door to the roof slammed again. Had she forgotten something? However, when I turned around, I saw Himitsu! Nico-kun, Saya-chan told me you were looking for me. She looked normal. It's what I would have said if this wasn't Himitsu. Happiness or sadness were normal to her, but not this sort of a detached attitude, which, as it seemed to me, was her way of expressing being upset with me. And I specifically asked her not to tell you about that. Soul Calibur 6, found it's one of the side games I'll be doing after Tekken. Cool. I wish you luck with that, Gator Kyle. Kick some butt in it. Why? Because, you know, she and I don't have the best relationship. Are you upset with something? I thought you dropped by in the morning. I replied straightforwardly. Sorry, I had something to do. I was even late for school. Himitsu looked away, and I couldn't understand whether she was deceiving me or just feeling guilty. But I'm glad you came today. What else could I do? After yesterday's... No, I mean... She panicked. I've already told you I'm not upset with you. But it doesn't feel like you mean it, because if I were you, I'd be upset. Himitsu came closer and stood next to me. I saw that Senpai was... When I was walking here, she looked unhappy, What did you talk about? Kagome Iwamura? So she's Kagome to you already. Himitsu smirked playfully. Are you jealous? You bet. Well, she's the last person you should be jealous of. You see, Iwamura doesn't really like the company of other people. She left as soon as she saw me. That was actually true. You two have something in common then. Is that a hint? Not at all. Now everything seemed normal. We were talking, joking, Himitsu was laughing, but I could feel some sort of awkwardness and tension between us. I was sure she could feel it too. By the way, sorry, I haven't had the time to make a bento today. No worries, although I haven't even had breakfast. Hey, Nico-kun, are you doing this on purpose? Sorry, like I said, I'll be checking the window a lot. I have a package coming soon. Doing what? Acting like a child. No, fine, I'll drop by the cafeteria with Kyosuke. He definitely won't mind. That's the spirit. Alright, let's go. The bell is about to ring. Alright! We walked down the stairs, and I was about to go back to the classroom. Nico-kun! I'm going to be busy after school. Mitsu said as if apologizing. Got it then. See you tonight. See you tonight! She smiled, bidding me farewell. Not a new game, that Disney collection that I talked about. That's what I'm getting today. I was sitting in the classroom thinking about Himitsu, about the way she was behaving after I learned the truth about her father, about the way she would have been behaving in my opinion, except that I wasn't even sure what I wanted. There was one thing I knew. I was fed up both with her excuses and pleas for forgiveness. If I were to really think about it, what was she guilty of? Of her father asking her to keep an eye on him? Or me? Of the fact that out of the goodness of her heart and naivety, she had been telling him everything about her life, including us? Me? Of not going and telling me sooner, as soon as she received that request? Was probably the latter. The only thing that she was responsible for directly. Children shouldn't pay for their parents' sins. I know that as well as anyone. Classes finished pretty quickly, or at least it felt like they did. Even faster than usual, I wasn't constantly glancing at the clock, counting the minutes, being occupied with my thoughts. However, there was still a lot of time left before evening. I slowly packed up my bag, went downstairs, changed my shoes, and walked outside where Michael approached me. Want to take a walk? All right. We walked out of the school gates and headed for my room. Home, although it was clearly out of Michael's way. That meant he wanted to talk about something that wasn't meant to be heard by anyone else. Go ahead, don't keep me waiting. Keeping up the same pace, Michael said, What have you decided about Catherine? What about her? Nick, I'm serious. Hey, Mafia babe, I just thought of something. You know what would be a crazy twist to this game? I ended up with Michael, and not any of the girls. Wouldn't that be a crazy, insane twist? Nick, I'm serious. So am I. I think I said everything clearly last time. Then I didn't understand you. Imagine. Who knows at this point, huh? That's unfortunate. And still, I stepped inside heavily. To be frank, the situation with Himitsu was much more important to me now. But then why couldn't I give him a straight answer? Like, Misha, you can have my Katya. May you live long in harmony. Look, I'm grateful for your honesty, but my opinion doesn't matter here. It's important to me. In that case, I can only repeat what I told you earlier. I'm not ready to discuss that now. At this point, anything could happen. I know. I could be shot dead at any second, Mafia babe. In the game, of course, not in real life. By trying to deny the obvious, you're letting me know how you really feel. I am not. He was starting to drive me mad. I am not trying to deny anything. Since when did you become a psychologist? You're always trying to play psychologist with me. If you really need Catherine, go and tell her yourself. She appreciates the courage, I guarantee that. Perhaps I will. Yeah, would you please? BRB, alrighty, I said sarcastically and walked away. However, Michael kept following me. The house is in the other direction. Just want to do everything right. I know I shouldn't try and cut in front of you. The victor is always right. But it felt like if I were pushing him toward Catherine. Even if I didn't want that, that's how my words sounded. You know what? Do whatever you want. Seriously, I don't care. Because either way, the result depends on neither you nor me. I don't even know, or want to imagine what's going on inside her head. Besides, I can see that you really have a crush on her. I've never seen you so anxious. I snickered. I think you can understand how I feel. I could before. What changed then? What changed? Everything did. It's quite logical that after many years of living together, some people began to wonder how they even managed to fall in love with the other person in the first place. Catherine and I hadn't been married, but the analogy was still appropriate. Okay, I won't bother you any longer. Hey, Krusty! How you doing today? It's good to see ya. Happy Valentine's Day to yous. Oh, I'm great. I'm doing good. I'm feeling good. I'm reading my silly visual novel. How are you today, though? I won't bother you any longer. He reached out and I shook his hand a bit too firmly, then watched him for some time as he walked away. A train station appeared from behind the corner, and suddenly I felt extremely depressed by the thought that I had to sit in the house all alone until evening just waiting for Himitsu. There's someone here. You're good yourself? That's good. I'm glad you're surviving. Pretending that everything was alright, and then I would have dinner with the fake smile on my face, speak meaningless words into the air, expecting equally meaningful answers. Welcome back, Mafia babe. Welcome back. After hesitating a minute, I walked confidently toward the station. I'm on the train! I'm on a train and it's moving! Oh, man. Can there be more trains in Murica soon? I saw you excited for Lara Croft. Hopefully it comes out today sometime. I hope so too. I could check real quick. Give me 2 seconds. Hey! It's out. It's out, Krusty. It's out now. I guess it activates at noon for some reason, which is kind of stupid. It should be available at midnight on the 14th, but oh no. Many people like to pointlessly ride trains. If you look closer, you'll notice that every one of them has their own reasons why. Yet this unique railway romance is the same for everybody. The feeling of an endless road, fellow riders you know nothing about, the absence of purpose, and more importantly, the absence of the need for one. New landscapes, new cities with old houses, where different people live. I was more fond of walking, sometimes in unfamiliar places, but to be in those places you need to reach them first. It's not always possible to do so on foot, as your immediate surroundings have been thoroughly explored already. Nevertheless, this time I got off at a familiar stop, that merchant district on the waterfront near the port. Why there exactly? I guess because this place had given me some hope. This was where I had met Ichinose, who knew at least something about the mysteries of my past and the dangers of the present. Was I really hoping to find the answers to the questions about my future amongst the tiny stores and fish smell? Merchants of all kinds were happily heading to and fro on the causeway, while others were soliciting customers to enter their shops right in the middle of the road. Children were playing with a ball, paying no attention to the shouts and threats of the local old ladies. The cacophony of ship sirens and the roar of turbines could be heard coming from the port. Perhaps that was exactly the reason why I came there, to get a taste of a life that was totally unfamiliar to me, fill my lungs with salty sea air and feel the sting of the cold winter's wind. To be among people without being a part of the crowd, to observe their daily lives. It seemed to me that few people would find that interesting. Why would you want to watch others' boring lives when you had enough problems of your own? Was that woman selling a fish a celebrity? Or was that hunched old man pushing an empty trolley a famous athlete? It was unlikely that any of these children would become legendary football players. I knew all that, yet I seemed to envy their simple pleasures and, in a way, more peaceful lives. Yet I could hardly picture myself waking up at the first light every day to pick up another batch of fresh fish at the port to sell later, carry a dozen kilograms back and forth, and handle some other undoubtedly important things until evening. But I was somehow confident that none of them were experiencing any of my problems, the love, the spying, and this fascinating introspection, as I was envious of them with an admiring rather than hateful envy, but it didn't make me feel any better. I'm going to check one more thing, guys. Sorry, this package is a big thing. I have to sign for it, which is kind of annoying. I wish they would just, drop it off. But it's kind of expensive, so I kind of don't have a choice, sadly. Alright, give me 2 seconds, fellas. No information yet. I'm gonna keep this up for now. Admiring... What a coincidence, I didn't expect to see you here. Somebody called out to me as I sat on a bench. There was something wrong with the voice, although it sounded familiar. Right, it spoke Russian. Oh dear. Uh-oh. After a moment, Irina Mostovaya appeared from out of the crowd. I doubt this is a coincidence, although I have to admit I am surprised. There was no fear. We were in a public place and Irina seemed to have come just to talk. Surprised I'm talking to you just like this in the middle of the day? Well, yeah, sure. It's worth getting that Lara Croft has been updates to the new one. It's a remaster. It's the first 3 games and it's a remaster. So, yes, there's an update. It's remastered. Well, yeah, sure. Don't worry, nobody has been following you. She sat down next to me and calmly looked around. Except for me. On the other hand, she knew that I had met with Ichinose here. Which wouldn't be the best state of affairs. Well, then you must be doing a better job than the corporation. You must be asking yourself how much we know by now, right? Well, we are aware of the fact that you went to the village to see Ito Ryunosuke's parents, and returned suspiciously early. You didn't even stop by for tea. She smirked, but her eyes remained cold and emotionless. Piercing. It seemed that she saw no more of a human in me than Dr. Mengele did in his patients. Put it on PS. I thought it would be a PS exclusive since it's from Sony. Yeah, it's a new age now, Krusty. It's many, many years later, and I guess Sony allowed it on the Switch, which I am very happy for. If you know everything already, what's this conversation for? At least it seemed that she wasn't aware of my meetings with Ichinose. We have a business offer for you, one I won't be able to reject. It's always up to you, but you need to consider the possible consequences. So we're asking you to collect as much information about Ito as possible. Documents, papers, any valuable data in any form. Perhaps you might overhear something. In return, we will ensure your protection, and if needed, can even take you to the USSR. Sorry, but I'm not signing up to be a spy. Nikolai, you've been in the game ever since you came to Japan. With your parents. Doesn't matter if you wanted it or not. You know the saying, there are no former Czechs? An informal name for security officers. Okay. But I'm not even a former. We can give you some time to think about our offer. Why? To choose between a firing squad and hanging? I grinned sadly. Why the fatalism? Because. I ground my teeth and frowned. I could just strangle her right here, right now, go to Japanese prison, and be safe there from all these bloody spies and counter-spies. In return, I'd like some answers. Ask. Why do you even think I might be able to find anything at all? I doubt Ryunosuke-san keeps important documents where I could see them. That's what you're going to find out. What exactly should I look for? Any information that might seem interesting? If I could tell you more, I would, but unfortunately, Nikolai, I don't know any details. I get it. You lose nothing by risking me. Do you think it would be so easy for him to get rid of you after all these years? Which brings me to my second question. You must know that he has a daughter, and we've known each other for a lifetime. Is Himitsu somehow involved in all this? It was the first time during the whole conversation that Irina's expression grew serious. We don't know anything about that. But you can't exclude the possibility. With matters as serious as this, I can't exclude the possibility that even Ito's cat might be involved. How did she even know they had a cat? Are you sure this is an appropriate time for jokes? I'm not joking, Nikolai. So what have you decided? What have I decided? If I were to agree, I would be doing the same thing Himitsu has done to me. I guess it would be best to tell her everything as soon as possible. However, by doing so, I would drag her even deeper into all this. I'd be subjecting her to real danger. At the moment, Himitsu was mostly just her father's tool, but if I agreed to the offer, she might also become of interest to the KGB. But on the other hand, if I were to find something, it would be the first time that I'd had my hands on something valuable, and my importance in the eyes of the KGB and Japanese intelligence would rise dramatically. It's probably too early to say that I could try changing the rules in my favor, but in the end, it could ensure not only my safety, but also Himitsu's. I'm ready to try, but I can't guarantee any results. I hope you realize that. Of course. Irina's lips twitched into a smile so fake that it made me shudder. What's important is that you do your best. But if it doesn't work out, let's not think about the worst in advance. I wanted to say that wasn't an answer, but stopped myself. Would whatever it was that I might hear make me feel better? Besides, it was foolish to expect she'd tell the truth. We will kill you if you don't manage. What, like that? No! Your words aren't exactly encouraging. I just want you to understand how serious the situation is. I do. Better than anyone. Attaboy. See you in a week. Same place, same time. She stood up, gave me another fake smile and as a farewell, and disappeared into the crowd. Yeah, today's walk sure turned out to be productive. Mafia babe, am I gonna die? I returned home a bit earlier than expected, before dinner, and thus had some time before Himitsu's arrival. That conversation with Irina on the waterfront left a bad aftertaste. She made me an offer I quite literally couldn't refuse. I might die. Oh, great. I don't want to. I want to find love. Thought that's what Valentine's Day was all about, finding love. I wasn't even worried about myself, as I couldn't get worse for me anyway, except maybe that I'd just taken a few more steps toward a miserable end. Why did I even ask about Himitsu? They could use her. They could have done so before too, but for whatever reason decided not to. The front door opened with the same sound as usual. It wasn't slow or fast, the way she came alone could, while I would regularly slam it without even meaning to, just paying no attention. Nico-kun! Mitsu called from the hall. I'm here. She entered the kitchen, gave me a somewhat detached look, and started taking groceries out of the bag. How are you? Fine. Himitsu replied briefly, her attention focused on cooking. Not anymore. Oh, Himitsu is gonna save me? Himitsu will protect me. I mean, how was everything with? For the life of me, I couldn't recall what she was going to do after class. With this. School festival. Yeah, right, school festival. How's it going? Fine. She replied in the same dry tone. It was weird. She didn't seem to be particularly upset in the afternoon. Won't even ask me how my day went. Is there a point? I don't know. You usually ask. And you usually don't reply. Or come up with excuses. I had no retort, as I wasn't ready to tell her about Irina's offer. Would you say I'm wrong? Well, I wouldn't be so harsh. What else do you expect, Nico-kun? Himitsu stopped peeling potatoes and finally looked at me. You accuse me of something I didn't even do, but you hide things all the time yourself. You lied to me. Despite the contents of her words, her tone was relatively calm. I was most hurt by the fact that Himitsu had never accused me of telling lies directly before. At least like this. I don't lie to you, and I'm not accusing you of anything. Yeah, right. She sarcastically flung her arms up in the air and returned to peeling potatoes, cutting a solid half of a tuber with each motion. Are you really trying to deceive me or just pitying me? Himitsu switched from Russian to Japanese, something that didn't happen to her often when we were alone. Do you think it's easy for me? Do you think I asked for my father to put me in a situation like this? Now it turned out that you don't trust me, and you even seem to have reasons for that. Nico-kun, think about my feelings. You're accusing me of something that isn't even my fault. Not out loud, maybe, but you think I didn't want things to turn out like this, and I can't fix them. Do you understand? I was expecting her to start crying, but she continued in a firm and confident tone. Tell me honestly, what's going on? What do you mean? I asked, surprised. You know what? I know you've been hiding something from me. I know that in different circumstances you wouldn't have told me anything at all. Nico-kun, I'm not a little girl anymore. You don't need to protect me. I love you, and I want to be with you in happiness and sorrow. You sure look like a little girl still. There couldn't be no doubt that she was speaking sincerely, and I felt pained and disgusted by the fact that I hadn't told her about the meeting with Irina, and many other things. But on the other hand, I just couldn't. I physically wasn't able to. My mouth wouldn't let me do it. All the words were getting stuck in my throat. Maybe I really was too protective of Himitsu, but it was all for her own good. And now how would it sound if I asked to spy on her father and was considering if I should agree? I've already told you everything I know, except the spying thing. I replied quietly, lowering my eyes. Oh, that's it then? Himitsu said coldly and grabbed a plate so suddenly. That's it? She threw it on the floor, immediately grabbing another one. So that's what all your talk about love amounts to? Ding. The glass shards scattered all over the place. Why did I ever think you were trying to protect me from something? Another plate broken to pieces. Maybe you just take me for an idiot and don't want me in your way. And another one. Sunshine, that's enough already, I said impotently. My whole body seemed to turn to jelly. I couldn't find the energy to stand up. The poor plates, I know. It's breaking my plates and my glasses. Why would you do that? That's all you can say? There were no plates left, and Himitsu was standing breathing heavily, looking at me with eyes full of resentment. I really don't blame you for your father, and I reacted like this at first, well, because it was too sudden. And how do you think I felt? He's my father! Sorry, I babbled. I was disgusted by my sudden indecisiveness and softness. I see you don't trust me. She took a few steps toward me, but in the end sunk heavily onto the chair and turned away. Heavily. I can't keep this up any longer, Nico-kun. Your parents, this corporation, my father, Caddy-chan, just want to be with you. But if you don't trust me, if you don't need me... Himitsu, wait, calm down, I need you. In that case, it's a pity you do everything possible to prove the opposite. I stood up and was about to approach, but Himitsu jumped away immediately. I should go. I hope you'll be able to handle dinner by yourself. But wait, I need to be alone. I decided not to stop her. I don't know. I think that went well, Mafia babe. I think that went super good. Perhaps it was for the better. If nothing was to tie us together, she'd lose all value in the eyes of Japanese intelligence and the KGB. Yeah, very good. Only all of my plates were broken. The next time I would tell Irina that I wasn't going to spy on anyone, and let responsibility for my own decisions lie on my shoulders only. I was twisting and turning in my bed, trying to fall asleep to no avail. What I was so afraid of had finally come to pass. Mitsu finally broke down. Not even because of my attitude toward her, but rather due to my clumsy attempts to protect her. So stupid. So silly and funny, like in a bad tragicomedy. While I was running back and forth between her and Catherine, not giving a damn about her feelings, everything was normal. What did I do wrong in the end? I could feel a lump in my throat, all of my memories of Himitsu from our childhood days till the most recent times passing before my eyes. Felt ashamed to lie to her, but now more than ever, I had confidence in my decision. Let her resent me, stop talking to me, become distant and forget me. That would be for her own good. The end. It's over. Oh no, it's the next day. Sorry, give me a second, fellas. I'm just refreshing the delivery information. This is gonna be a weird stream, huh? Friendship ruined? No! Well, maybe, but no! Are you okay? Has always seemed a weird and unnatural question to me. Especially in American movies, when a character might get his arm ripped off and his partner, with an expression of genuine concern on his face, would wonder whether that character was doing okay. Could it be better, goddammit? But thinking about it, what does okay mean in our lives anyway? You can only define it relatively. For instance, if I had my arm ripped off, at least it wouldn't be my head, so compared to the worst possible situation, I'd be relatively okay. Yesterday I lost Himitsu, but at least I was still alive. So in comparison to with the worst situation, I was doing okay. Although who needs an okay like this? You know what I say? I say screw this okay. I had fallen asleep pretty late, around 4 in the morning, but was woken up by the usual sounds of cooking in the kitchen. Was Himitsu cooking breakfast after everything that happened the day before? I quickly got dressed and ran out of my room, but the person standing at the stove was... Oh my god! Good morning, I was about to wake you up. How did you get in here? I asked gloomily and leaned heavily against the doorframe. Come on now, is that how you're going to start such a wonderful day? Certainly wasn't wonderful for me, and Catherine's presence didn't change that in the slightest. Plot twist. She's making me breakfast. How did you get in? I've been to your place more than once, remember? Nothing has changed since then. Indeed, sneaking into the garden from the street wasn't difficult, and neither was opening the door to the kitchen if one knew how to. Katya did. Maybe I should have been worried about burglars, but I had nothing valuable in the house, and it didn't look very interesting from outside. What if I call the police? Go ahead, would be a good idea after yesterday's slaughter. She smirked, stirring something in the pan. What slaughter? I asked, genuinely surprised. Don't worry, I've already cleaned up the shards. It's just, what are we supposed to eat now, off of now? Well, there was no getting out of this. I don't want to talk about it. Of course you don't. She smirks slyly. By the way, I didn't know you could cook. I tried to change the subject, just because I never cooked before. Well, naturally. Well, I couldn't, but I learned how over the past year. When you're on your own for a while, even pizza gets dull. Perhaps I would have learned how to cook as well if Himitsu weren't around all the time. So you came, broke into my house, even at an ungodly hour solely to show off your cooking skills? Well, we've known each other for a while. I know you're having a hard time. As if you care. Of course I do. We're friends, aren't we? Katya seems sincere, but I still couldn't believe her words, but decided to change the subject a bit. What if Himitsu came now? Will she? Catherine smiled opaquely. After yesterday's, what is it about whatever. Whatever. I didn't want to talk about this, especially with her, so I just sat silently and waited. The meal I eventually received something resembled a stew. Tasted pretty good and felt much more Western than what I was used to eating. But you couldn't make this sort of thing in half an hour. When exactly had Catherine arrived? It's good, I said, trying to make it sound as if I were merely being polite. Not any worse than Himitsu's. Why are you starting this all over again? What's wrong with what I said? Nothing. You don't want to talk about her? I don't. I snarled. What, trouble in paradise? You two had a fight? Honestly, it's none of your business. I looked at Katya and felt nothing. Yes, I was happy for the tasty breakfast and the fact that she had come over, but on the other hand, I would have felt just as comfortable alone. Well, as you wish, you don't need to tell me, but I will find out anyway. From your mom and her spy network? Catherine pulled a long face and stared at her plate. This doesn't feel nice when someone hits your sore spot, does it? Why do you think it's a sore spot for me? I think we've already discussed it and figured everything out. After the revealed truth about Himitsu's father and the KGB's ultimatum, the whole situation with her mom seemed it was, if not a stupid misunderstanding, then merely a trifle. Then I understand why you're here even less. And don't tell me that you're just worried about me, for God's sake. Fine, I won't, but what if that's true? I gave Katya a look from under my brows. She looked and behaved absolutely normal, maybe a bit more polite, which in her case mostly meant less sarcastic. If that's true, then thank you. You don't sound sincere. Don't know what to tell you. I wonder what would happen if Himitsu actually came. Look, thank you for the breakfast, and you're kicking me out? She interrupted me flatly. Just need to get ready for school. I can help. I'll handle it. Okay, I'll do the dishes. No need, leave them. Don't you think it's at the very least rude to kick me out after I've been stuck in the stove for 2 goddamn hours? Catherine frowned and finally looked like herself. Do what you want. I went to the bathroom to brush my teeth and wash my face. Then I changed into my school uniform and returned to the kitchen. Catherine was sitting in her old seat looking out into the garden with a bored expression on her face. The dirty dishes were where I had left them. Didn't you want to do the dishes? And you said I didn't need to. I see. Shall we go? She rose gracefully from her chair and walked to the hallway. I was definitely afraid that Himitsu would see us together, but I couldn't just push her out of the house. She obviously wasn't going to leave alone. Whew, that music was loud. Was that music too loud, by the way, Mafia babe? Looking for something? Catherine asked snidely, seeing me cautiously look around. The meaning of life? Let's go already. I couldn't even remember the last time we walked to school like this. She had stayed at my place overnight before when my parents weren't home, but it only happened once or twice. Bring back memories? What does? All this. Katya made a pirouette, her skirt dancing along flirtatiously. Said it fun to you? Alrighty. Thank you for letting me know. Although you must have fallen out of habit. Apparently so. I replied briefly in order to avoid continuing this conversation and sinking deeper into the past. Not much has changed here over the years. Catherine was constantly looking around. Was it supposed to? It's only been a year and a half. I finished with a bit of strain. In our times, everything changes at the speed of thought, you know? Why are you doing this? I just thought it'd sound nice. No, I mean, why did you come in the morning and cook breakfast? I can't believe it's just because you care about me. I think you need something from me. What could I possibly need, from you? Catherine stopped and looked at me in the eyes with a cute smile on her face. Cute? I don't know, and I don't want to play these games. Well, don't then. Myself, I find them very funny. She immediately turned around and walked a couple of steps ahead of me. So you're not even going to try to deny it, are you? As nasty as it felt to acknowledge it, this punitive honesty was appealing to me, even a bit arousing. Deny what? Catherine said without turning around. We approached the school and I noticed Michael in the distance. So did Katya. Do you know that Michael likes me? She asked, seemingly casually. What? I think he and I would find at least a couple things to talk about. How did you know? Did he? No, we haven't even talked yet. It's just easy to see. I noticed it right away. Feminine intuition. Katya added flirtatiously. I see. My voice sounded way too unhappy, and deep inside I scolded myself for that. So I'm thinking about what to do with that. What do you think? I don't know. What, you aren't interested at all? Perhaps you could give me a piece of friendly advice. It's none of my business. Isn't it? She gave me a sly smile and approached a group of girls I didn't know. So did she have friends, or at least acquaintances? I didn't know whether Michael noticed us or not, but I had no desire to talk to him, so I slowed down, waiting until he entered the school building. It's school time! Catherine showed up in the classroom right before the bell and sat down behind her desk, paying no attention to me. What did she want from me in the end? What was with that performance? Maybe it was some strange sort of revenge. It was hard for me to think about that at the moment, especially with my fight with Himitsu and the whole spy business as the backdrop. Catherine definitely had no intention of leaving me alone, which was beginning to irritate me. God, how quickly can a man's feelings change? Alright. Be right back, guys. It is here. How quickly can a man's feelings change? A couple of weeks ago, I could only dream about spending this much time with her. Alright, think about this classroom. Notice, like, all the cool things on the screen. And, I'll be right back. Gosh. Whew, that thing is heavy. I got a really heavy thing, guys. I'll check it later. Where am I? Am I still live? Jump scare. Oh, did I jump scare ya? Hey, Mafia babe. Boo! Did I scare ya? And now? Now I would rather she left me home alone. Although I was afraid to admit that even to myself, coming up with stupid excuses like, I have more important things to deal with now. During the break, Michael approached me. His look implying we were going to have a serious conversation. I'm so scared. I'm sorry. I am sorry. We need someone to sign for this order, but signature service not requested. Weird. Alright, well I got it. It's mine. Obtain proof of delivery. Yeah, it's right here. Alright, well, whatever. Moving on, it's over. Moving on. I got an email. Yes, it's delivered, yes. During the break, Michael approached me, his look implying we were going to have a serious conversation. Hi, have you got a minute? For you? Always! I tried to preemptively shield myself with sarcasm. I really don't want to start over it again, but you leave me no choice. Today, you and Captain came to school together. So he noticed us back then. Yeah, so what? BRB, alrighty. Did you just happen to meet on the way, or what? Tell me. You know what I mean. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. He averted his eyes for a moment, but then looked at me with the same confidence. You just need to tell me the truth, and I won't come between you two or ruin your relationship. Our relationship? I smirked. Why don't you ask her first when we're in any kind of relationship? Look different from the outside. How did he always manage to remain so composed and say all this calm? Say all this in a calm, even tone. I don't care how it looks to anyone. We're not going to get anywhere like this. I'm not going anywhere, and I feel pretty alright here. Hey, number 13th. How you doing today? Happy Valentine's Day to ya. How's you doing? I said a bit louder than I should have. What? And attracted the attention of the students sitting next to us. What do you need from me in the end? To tell you the truth, are you together or not? You clearly didn't understand or want to understand the hints that there was nothing between us. You're doing good. I saw your Litwick art, by the way, your Valentine's Day Litwick. It was very, very cute. Number 13th, your drawings have been a little bit too cute. A little bit too adorable. No, I'm joking. I love them. Keep them up. Keep them up, my friend. I was so fed up with all of this. So why couldn't I say it out loud? It often happens. You don't do what you need to. Because of that, you start hating yourself and get depressed. In turn, depress obstructs you from doing what you need to do. A vicious cycle. Anyway, this explanation sounded much better than the thought that I still wasn't able to reject Catherine completely. What if we are? Are you going to turn away and leave, pretending nothing happened? If you like a girl, why the hell do you need my opinion? Afraid to hurt my feelings? Come on. You're just being hypocritical. You want to make yourself look good, so then nobody will think badly of you, no matter the outcome. And I still can't understand. What do you want to hear from me? Am I interested in her? Only sexually, I assure you. Want to be whole brothers? Be my guest. What? What was that? I stopped for a moment to catch my breath, and only then realized that the class was gravely silent and everyone was looking at me. Thought you were about to say something like, you're posting too many drawings, stop it. I would have joked and said like, yeah, number 13th, your drawings are too cute and too amazing. Stop it already. They're too cute. I can't handle it. But no, please, please keep going. Please keep doing it. Catherine quickly stood up and packed up her bag and left. Accumulated stress will always find a way out. One way or another. There was nothing surprising about that, but I'd picked the least appropriate moment possible. Michael, I'm sorry. I don't think I'm the person you should apologize to, he said coldly and returned to his desk. I ran out of the classroom and rushed down the stairs. But Catherine was neither at the lockers nor in her yard. She could be hiding somewhere at the school or have left already. Anyway, now I couldn't find her. An awful thought flashed through my mind that she deserved it because of her behavior today. But what did she do wrong exactly? Make a tasty stew? Or merely return to my life? The bell for class reached me at the school gate. I was just standing there trying to figure out how it had come to this. How could my life instantly turn into a play by an amateur Broadway scriptwriter? Why was this happening to me alone, while other people were living their lives normally? Kyosuke, Sayach-chan, even Michael. I was ashamed to return to the classroom, but the idea of being alone with myself enticed me even less. Besides, mean looks and whispers behind my back would be a wonderful punishment for me. It happened to you once that the owner of a Discord server told me I posted too many drawings. Oh, bleep off that whoever that was. You left that server, you felt uncomfortable. Yeah, as you should have. Going home early from school, so be back in a bit. Alrighty, Mafia babe. I'll see you very soon. Yeah, keep at it, number 13th. Art should be appreciated, and I sure as hell appreciate your art. Lowering my head and mumbling something that sounded like an excuse, I entered the classroom and sat behind my desk. I couldn't say how my classmates reacted to me showing up, as I instantly stared into my notebook and tried to concentrate on the teacher's words. Thank you. Hey, you're welcome. Thank you for posting them in the first place. It's a great piece of advice. When you feel down, you should concentrate on work. Get distracted, so to say. Yeah, right. I don't know a single person who that actually worked for. How could someone simply silence every thought about the things that constitute the very essence of their existence? Himitsu, Catherine, the truth about my parents' death. This was my entire life. As if I were to forget, delete it, scrub it away with rubber like a typo in a dictation, what would be left? Yeah, I had no job, and the closest to it was school. But could abstract logarithms, integrals, or biographies of long-dead public figures become more important to me than real problems and real people? Classes had ended a long time ago, and I was just sitting alone in the empty classroom, not thinking about anything particular. I was too tired of everything, and just couldn't concentrate on anything, and I had no desire to go somewhere and do something. Without students, the school became quiet and still, and in this silence, the sound of steps coming from the corridor sounded sinister, as if a mortician or a plague doctor were coming for me. The sounds were getting louder, but remained monotonous, and every step was accompanied by dull creaking. Someone massive was approaching. The door opened slowly, and I was ready for anything to come in, holding my breath. But it was just Kyosuke! Still here? He asked in an unusually serious voice. Don't scare me like that, I exclaimed. What did I do? You're walking like death itself. Nick, you're off your rocker. He came closer and sat behind the desk next to me. I didn't want to come back at first, but then I thought... give me a second. Okay. But then I thought, you could use someone to talk to. About what? Do you think I'm a complete idiot and haven't noticed anything? Even if that were the case, you told the entire class about your problems today. I don't have any... Michael doesn't know when to stop. I don't think it's about him, or not only about him. Maybe, but what do you want from me? I'm just fed up with this situation. All these misunderstandings and omniscience. Catherine and I are just friends. Catching Kyosuke's admonishing look, I specified. At the very least, we're not lovers. Then I really don't understand why you're being so stubborn. You'll always have Himitsu-chan. Always. I smirked sadly and gave him a look of contempt. It's not a game, you know. Not some A or B choice. You sure? Maybe it is actually that easy, and you just need to choose. What if he was right and I was wrong? Well, making a choice naturally wasn't easy, but it was definitely the right thing to do. And by avoiding giving Michael a straight answer, I was postponing my choice as hard as I could. What do you know? But I definitely couldn't confess that to Kyosuke. Sometimes you should just look at the situation objectively and impartially. Hello, who are you and where's Kyosuke? I shook him by the shoulders. Seriously, objectively and impartially? How could you even imagine that? I'm just giving you a bit of advice. That's the easiest thing to do. He finally smiled. Ain't that right? Anyway, you could use a distraction. Want to go to an arcade? Yeah, let's go. We're going to an arcade! Even if Kyosuke was right, it's not like I didn't know as much myself. But knowing what's right and proper doesn't then make your decision any easier. Hey, Cal! How you doing today? Happy Valentine's Day to ya. How you doing? I hope all is well. You're just in time. There's a visual novel going on. That's going good, though. I hope you're with your loved ones today, meaning your family and your big bro Ultima. But yeah, how's life treating ya? We left the arcade when it was already dark. Alright. In Galaxian, first try to shoot the ones on the sides and make free zones. Oni-chan? No, damn it. Well, about that, you're probably asking the wrong person. He scratched the back of his head and smiled sadly. I'm not asking you for love advice. Just tell me what you would do if you were me. I really need an objective opinion, so to say. You said it yourself. Well, I would choose Himitsu-chan. Kyosuke replied without any hesitation. Somehow I thought that he would try to deny it and hesitate for a while. Really, you're unusually decisive today. I guess arcades do some good after all. What does it have to do with arcades? I've always been on her side. Really? I don't remember you ever telling me that. You don't celebrate Valentine's Day unless you have that special someone. I will confess, me too, Cal. Me too. But then again, I am streaming this lovely game to make up for me not having a real love. But yeah, I don't blame you, Cal. Hang out with your other forms of love, which is family members and your streamer bros, and the games that you love too, like your Star Wars is. Telling me that. Have you ever asked? True enough. Kyosuke, with his voracious passion for 2D, always seemed like the last person to talk to about real girls. Never mind. So, why do you think that? I don't know Catherine-san that well, as you're aware, but I'm quite familiar with Himitsu-chan, and I know about the things she's done and kept doing for you. Your grandma calls you handsome. That's awesome. Enjoy that while you got it, hopefully for a very, very long time. Is this your way of trying to shame me? No, I'm just stating facts. Am I wrong? Wrong in what sense? Are we going to measure the things she had done for me in kilograms or kilometers? No, goddammit. In feet, Nick. Why can't you just agree with something when it's true? I'm not saying you're wrong, just... Then why do you always need these clarifications and clauses? Maybe because this way I feel less guilty? You know life isn't all black and white like in your manga. You think I don't understand that? You still have someone to choose from. It was hard for me to continue this conversation, and I really didn't want to upset Kyosuke. To him, all my problems seemed to just be romantic ones, since he didn't even know a fraction of the truth. I wonder how I would have acted if he was right. You miss your grandfather, he was the best man. Aww. It's the same for me. I miss my, Grammy a lot. But spend time, with the people you do have, though. And remember the ones you've lost on this day. You give your life so you could spend more time on Earth. Oh, me too. Yeah, but just carry the memory on for future generations. That's what I'm gonna do. That's what you should too, my dude. Diplomat? In his view, that's what my life's was. And 1.5 years ago, that was exactly the case. And I chose Catherine without hesitation back then. Well, I guess that's enough for today. See ya. Take what I learned from him and carry it on. Awesome. Attaboy, gal. I stretched my hand out to him. Will you come to school tomorrow? I will. We said a warm goodbye and I headed home. The lights were on in my house. I froze thinking that Himitsu could be there. I tried to hold back with the warm chest feeling in my chest. I slowly entered the yard and opened the front door with my key. Think you would ever stream these types of games, Cal? Visual novels? There's a lot of reading, especially in the larger ones. I'm trying to court 4 girls in this game while also trying not to die. There's actually a threat over my life in this game, so it's very weird, but very cool. However, I didn't find her shoes in the hall. Didn't even know I paid attention to that, but my heart skipped a beat. She couldn't have come to me wearing slippers, could she? Never considered playing these. What if there was a Star Wars one? I mean, there's not going to be ever, but what if there was? Trying not to make any noise, I sneaked into the kitchen. You again! Oh my god! Catherine looked at me idly and recrossed her legs. I see you were expecting someone else. It's more like I wasn't expecting to see you. Sorry, I decided not to cook dinner since you didn't seem to enjoy breakfast. Maybe. There's just a lot of reading, though. She smirked and fidgeted with the fork in the box of instant noodles before her. Still not a fan of chopsticks? I was wondering if you'd come alone or not. You wouldn't pay much for it. Yeah, get the cheap ones. The cheapest possible ones. I was wondering if you'd come alone or not. What does that have to do with anything? I was able to get angry, but immediately remembered my behavior at school and felt dejected. Look, I'm sorry for everything I said today. That's not what I really think. Oh, of course it isn't. I understand that you're having a rough time and getting a little jumpy. She didn't say anything that wasn't normal for her, but this time it really got to me. So why have you come then, especially after what I've done? Didn't you think I would hide in the deepest hole I could find, cry, pity myself, and curse you? Maybe it wouldn't even be appropriate considering the situation, but why would I do that? So instead, you decided to come here. It's definitely the more logical move. I approached the fridge, opened it, but found nothing. Just poured some tap water into a glass. It's not about me at all. What is it about then? Himitsu! What about her? I grew cautious instantly. I heard my mom talking on the phone. Katya smiled but was clearly fidgeting in the chair. Himitsu's father works for Japanese intelligence and spies on you. Wanted to tell you in the morning but couldn't find the courage. Are you going to say anything? I kept looking at her expectantly but a bit vacantly at the same time. I'm wondering where your sarcasm goes when you start talking about serious things. Do you know what that... Did you know that chameleons can't change hue in their sleep and always remain the same color? Nick, I'm serious. Then maybe you'll tell me something I don't already know. So you... She stood up and came closer. How can you talk with her like after that? Don't worry, we no longer talk. For now, at least. How long have you known? For some time. I replied evasively. So it turned out that Catherine came and told me everything about everything herself. Unlike Himitsu, who confessed only when I forced her to, and this made me the burden on my heart even heavier. That's just like you. What exactly? That I trust the only person close to me who's never betrayed me before? That's what you think. She whispered, but I paid no attention and kept attacking her. It's so weird that I'm looking for support from anyone at all, when I'm besieged on all sides, isn't it? By Himitsu and you and others. I wasn't shouting, but Catherine looked frightened. That's so strange for normal people. Is that what you think? Any normal person would have long offed himself in my place, or tell me what I gotta do, and I'll do it. And what are you accusing Himitsu of? Do you think she works for Japanese intelligence? It just so happened the stars align like this. Everything in my life is by default. So what's so surprising about that? Cow. There's swearing in this game. They're dropping F-bombs like crazy. What am I gonna do? Katya was quiet, but after these words straightened up and seemed to become as tall as me. You f***ed it all up again, Nick. First you lost me, and now apparently her. And who do you blame? The stars. What? Her words surprised me so much I staggered back and hit the sink behind me. What did I do wrong? You always blame everyone else. Me, Himitsu, others. What others? There's only two of us here, and Himitsu is in the house across the street. I know, potty words. Catherine, person I'm playing as, go to the potty. Say the words in. Flush the toilet. Get him out of here. Get a swear jar, am I right? You know full well you two aren't my only problem. I turned away to avoid looking her in the eye, and you will never find a solution if you keep waving everyone away. I am such an idiot to have come here, to think that you could still be helped. And now even when someone spits in your eye, you just say it's rain. But I must say, you two deserve each other. I felt a strong need to say something, come up with an objection, but I had no strength. Felt as if her words had drained the last bits of my will to live. I just don't know what to do. I noticed as much. I'm so tired of this game, playing emotional ping pong. You become sarcastic, I retaliate, I snap at you, and you get pissed. Catherine didn't respond, but clearly grew embarrassed. Well, I guess it's my turn to say, that's life. But everything could be different. And just this very morning, when I was absolutely sure I had no feelings for her. And now, I didn't know. Of course, but it's not, and looking for someone to blame won't do any good. I'm not looking for anyone to blame, but thanks for telling me. Did your mom tell you anything else? No, nothing else. She replied after a short pause. But I'd say this is enough, already more than enough. In any case, I told you what I wanted to, and I have nothing else to say, which means that I have nothing to do here. So long. I saw her to the door. If something happens, you know where to find me, she said as a farewell. Why did she need to say that? To leave me with a foolish hope or to keep me in a short leash? I looked out onto the street and spent a long time staring at the light in Himitsu's room. Catherine didn't tell me anything new, but brought unbelievable pain with her stupid, unnecessary, inappropriate honesty. And why was she so willing to tell me everything except for what really mattered? I watched TV until late in the night, trying to get rid of thoughts of ditching everything and joining a monastery. The end. I did it, Cal. I beat the... No, I didn't. Not yet. Why do different people like different colors? Frood and Lusher most definitely had their opinions on that, but I always struggled to make a clear choice. Sometimes my favorite color would be blue or violet. I used to hate yellow, and my childhood preference was white. Of course, they are strictly scientific explanations for the matter, but in our everyday life, we're used to more basic interpretations. Red symbolizes the unbridled fervor of fire, blue epitomizes the sincerity of the clear summer sky, while black reminds us of the dusty shrouds and the gloomy vaults of a Gothic church. I wasn't sure which colors I would associate with Catherine and Himitsu, but in my memories their smiles used the same palette. The sound of the TV woke me up, and with some effort I blew my nose. The night wind had made me pretty stuffy. Due to my uncomfortable position, my back hurt, making the awakening even less enjoyable. On the screen, chipper and overly smiley, news anchors were wishing a good morning to all the inhabitants of Tokyo. They had it easier, of course. These programs are usually pre-recorded, and now they were peacefully sleeping in their cozy beds. Right after the fake smiles and tons of face powder came a cooking show. Spend just 5 minutes and make yourself a happy with a tasty, healthy breakfast. A professional chef with more than 20 years of experience was shouting, skillfully filleting fish and slicing vegetables. Yeah, right. Wouldn't be able to cook anything like that even in 3 hours, with or without all the ingredients. Although a dead mouse, a couple dozen cockroaches, and some soy sauce would make for an undoubtedly higher protein, though probably not as tasty meal than the one prepared by that TV chef. Having weighed up all the cons and failed to find any pros, I got dressed and walked to school. I had no desire to skip classes since I had nothing else to do in the morning, but by skipping breakfast I managed to find some time to drop by a shop and buy a couple chocolate bars. I wanted to go to my favorite ramen place as well, but after counting the money in my wallet, I abandoned the idea. And I still had a week before the end of the month. I'm gonna starve to death. At school, everything seemed normal. Joyful and enthusiastic Kyosuke, Michael with his book, and Catherine who was expressingly ignoring my presence. Everyone seemed to have forgotten about my behavior yesterday, or were merely pretended to, keeping up appearances. In any case, I didn't feel like an exile. No more than usual. Not that anybody ever paid much attention to me. I had to admit I was a little scared of the derogatory looks and whispers behind my back on my way to school. But life went on as usual, not noticing me and my problems. During the second class, a note had landed on my desk. Come to the roof at lunch. It was written in Japanese. The handwriting looked familiar, but it definitely wasn't Katya's. I was even kind of happy to receive the note, since I was starting to get bored. So this is a thing too, huh? No, the absence of adrenaline equaled boredom to me. During the long break, I went to the roof, waving Kyosuke away as he offered to have lunch together. I said, bleep you! However, there was nobody there. Apparently I was too early. Was what I thought as I sat on the bench, preparing to wait for the author of the note. Ha! The door soon opened and Kagome jumped into the arms of the unfriendly autumn wind. Well, yeah, I should have expected that. I muttered. What are you mumbling there? Kagome asked in an intimidating voice, coming closer. I want to clarify something, just in case. Did you write the note? Yes. She replied briefly and sat next to me. Right. I realized why the handwriting looked familiar to me. Kagome was the class rep and would constantly write things on the blackboard. We seem to be meeting each other a bit too often these days. You're in no position to make jokes. What else can I do? You're in danger, don't you understand? In danger? I managed to uncover something else. The father of your red-headed girlfriend works for Japanese intelligence, and he may be somehow related to my father's disappearance. God damn it, does everyone actually know more than I do about my own life? I exclaimed and flung my arms into the air. Doesn't seem like it's news to you. She squinted her eyes, but I immediately asked a question. How did you learn that? I have my own sources. Kagome responded unsurely, turned away, and shivered from the strong wind. Here. I stood up, took my jacket off, and tried to put it over her shoulders. What are you doing? She immediately jumped up from the bench and ran a few feet away. She's trying to act like a gentleman, since you trust me. I mean, you've told me so much important information already. Kagome calmed down a bit, but didn't come closer. It's because I still hope that you're a reasonable guy. Besides, we're in a similar situation, so I want to believe that you'd act reasonably. I have to say, though, that so far you've been as useful as a dug-up corpse. Well, I'm sorry for not knowing anything else, and at this point it was mostly the truth. And why do you think I should blindly trust you? Because I have no reason to lie to you. I'm just looking for my father. I didn't reply, but her words made me feel guilty. After all, Kagome, despite her rather complicated personality, had opened up to me and relied on me to some extent. You're right. Sorry. Is there anything else you know? And how do you even know about Himitsu's father? I told you enough already, and you seem completely unsurprised by it. I'm just tired of surprises. I smiled idiotically, but I would like to know more about your sources. Tit for tat. I have nothing to offer in return, so it's not like this is a card game. If you were me, wouldn't you want to know everything? Are you so sure it's easier to be you than me? No, but that doesn't change anything. Unlike you, I'm trying to do something. I've already told you everything I know, and how I found out isn't important. Just for your information, a one-sided relationship like this can't last long. Oh, so we have a relationship now? Asshole! Kagome hissed, and I was left alone. I seem to remember that Himitsu once said I should change my attitude toward other people, and even though it started to behave differently with her, and maybe to some extent with Catherine, others remained as of little interest to me as before. But Iwamura could have been a useful ally. Next time, if there was a next time, I had to treat her with more respect. I came across Michael at the entrance of the classroom. Hey, Cal, are you still here? It's you. He looked at me coldly but said nothing. It's not like he had to say anything. No one would show it openly. But everyone, except maybe Kyosuke, considered me a social pariah. Or maybe I had just become a persona non grata, since I'd never really tried to change my caste, deeming it impossible. There was absolutely no way I could keep being in their company. Yep, you can confirm that's you. It is. You have short hair, you wear glasses, you wear a suit to school, you're in school. That is 100% you. I quickly packed my bag and with my eyes lowered, walked out of the classroom. The bell reached me in the schoolyard, and deep inside I felt sad and for some reason even disgusted. I guess I had never really given thought to the fact that on a weekday afternoons the streets were populated by totally different people than in the evenings. Seems legit. Oh, come totally legit. The more legit that we could ever legitly get. Children and teenagers were studying, while adults were mostly at work, but pensioners of all ages, mothers with their strollers, and all kinds of couriers and delivery boys scrawled out of their homes between 9 and 6 o'clock to enjoy the still warm autumn sun. Soon they would be replaced by office workers in their identical gray suits, children who couldn't wait to have some fun, and exhausted factory workers. But for now, Tokyo belonged fully to the nice motley crowd. I slowed down to catch a few more smiles from strangers passing by. They had a calming effect on me. In the end, some people were capable of not only drowning in their problems, but also bringing some happiness in the world, sharing their good mood with others. Even if in reality things were very different, it was just a sign of politeness. I'm home. I came home, kicked off my boots, and walked into the kitchen. The TV was still on, showing a program for housewives. Household Secrets. Himitsu probably watched it often. At first, I thought the ring of the doorbell was part of the show, but I quickly realized that wasn't the case and opened the door. Oh my god! Ryunosuke-san was standing at my doorstep. Physically fit as always, as focused as always, with a cold look in his eyes and abruptly military precise gestures. How come I never figured out he wasn't just a simple government employee? Ryunosuke-san. I greeted him briefly and slightly lowered my head. May I come in? Sure. I walked him to the kitchen and offered him a chair. Nikolai, I respect you, so I'm not going to pretend to put on an act here. I think you have long realized what's going on. You've become very interesting to the KGB lately. That explains a lot. I froze in place. I hope he didn't know I had eavesdropped on him in the village. I'm not aware how much you know, but it is in your best interest to tell me everything here and now. What I know, I said quietly. This was the person I'd known half my life. Not only had he been lying abjectly to my parents and me for so many years, he'd also managed to drag his own daughter into this. Oh, I know enough. Let me tell you a story. About a nice neighbor who pretends to be a family friend, about how he is willing without hesitation to betray anyone on command. For him, the end justifies any means, and there are no moral boundaries. He'll even use his own daughter to accomplish his goals. Any means, right, Ryunosuke-san? Am I right? I snapped, but I couldn't feel any particular danger coming from him. I was, at least to a degree, confident he hadn't come to kill me. That's your point of view. You are entitled to it, but there are many others. However, Nikolai, you should calm down. That would be better for everyone. His impenetrable seriousness was more frightening than all of Irina's words combined. Is that a threat? For now, it is a warning. I hope I'm not mistaken about you, and I won't need to deploy methods that are more appropriate for stupid scum. His arrogance stung. There was something of Japanese militarism in him. Refers to the ideology in the Empire of Japan, which advocates the belief that militarism should dominate the political and social life of the nation, and the belief that the strength of the military is equal to the strength of a nation. Ho ho. Hey, welcome back. How you doing, Mafia babe? I might be in danger right now. I mean, I have been in danger this whole game, but I might be in extra special danger right now. And still, I was scared and simply couldn't take it. Nikolai, I want to help you, no matter how crazy that may sound to you. I have helped you before over many years. I have been doing things that go beyond the scope of my responsibilities, and even things that violated direct orders. He added in a quieter voice, I have done things you haven't a clue about. Are you talking about my parents? I smirked. Believe me, I have nothing to do with what happened to them. Of course you don't. I realize that you have no reason to trust me, but this is a dangerous game you're playing, albeit against your will. You must have realized already that there are many players in this game, so I will say once again, I have nothing to do with your parents' death. Himitsu's father seemed to speak genuinely, but I caught myself thinking that during the entire conversation, his facial expression had barely changed. It doesn't matter what I think, right? Then why did you come here at all? Finally, he knitted his brows and said quietly, I need to know everything you know. If I knew something, I'd gladly tell you, if you had my word. I'm so fed up with your game. I slapped my neck with my palm, showing how fed up I was exactly. So if I had a chance to do something that would make you all leave me be, I believe you, Nikolai. He interrupted me and suddenly smiled. And that's it? Yes. Is there anything else you want to discuss? What happens now? To you? I don't know. However, you may realize that after everything that's happened, you better keep away from my daughter. How? But... I mumbled impotently, Be well. Ryunosuke-san stood up and left. When the door closed behind him, I sank exhaustedly to the chair. Of course, arguing with him would have been pointless and risky, and besides, what could I say? It's not like Himitsu wanted to see me, but that was only for now. In the end, she'd definitely come. Wouldn't she? And what did he mean by I don't know? That I didn't have to fear Japanese intelligence anymore? Or that everything was over for me? No. If that were the case, he wouldn't have warned me about Himitsu. I was shattered and crushed and, most importantly, humiliated. For the first time, Irina could threaten me all she wanted, but she didn't have any aces up her sleeve. Ryunosuke-san had Himitsu, and he played his card brilliantly, breaking my will and bringing me to my knees in a couple of minutes. If I had anything to tell them, I would have done it immediately, without hesitation. Ichinose? It didn't seem like they were really interested in him. My conversations with Irina or Kagome, they were, in the end, not very informative. I didn't know anything except that. But why? Why was it so easy? The answer to this question was becoming more and more obvious. I couldn't stay home alone now. If something happens, you know where to find me. And there I was, dialing the cherished number again. It was quite early, but maybe she was at home? After a few beeps, someone eventually responded. Hello? Hi, it's me. Catherine didn't reply. You already back from school? And silence again. What was I trying to achieve by stating facts? I summoned all my courage and said, You said that I would know where to find you. I guess I have. In the park in an hour. Katya replied briefly and hung up. Everything seemed to have worked maybe too easily. We're in the park! Despite my efforts, I did manage to arrive before Catherine. Oh, I got a text. Oh, never mind. I got scam text. Ignoring it. I didn't manage to arrive before Catherine. She was already waiting for me there. Her house was much closer to the park. Catch your breath first. She smiled condescendingly and pointed at a bench. We sat down. Not a day passed. Sorry if I distracted you from something important. I always have time for you. Besides, it's clear something's happened. When I called Catherine, I hadn't figured out what I was going to tell her. It was just a whim and lack of other options. I looked at her with a plea in my eyes, as if hoping she'd guess at all herself, and I wouldn't have to lie, or worse, tell her everything in detail. Himitsu? Yes, we had a fight. Not that it's the first time, but this time, it's serious. You talked to her after everything I've told you, although you already knew. Yeah. Unlike Himitsu, I hadn't promised not to lie to Catherine, and she didn't have to know what Ryosuke-san had told me. My life doesn't change much, that's for sure, but why am I here? I had even less desire to say that I just felt lonely and that Kyosuke wouldn't have made for good company here. Although even if I had a choice, would I have called someone else? I just don't want to be alone. You get used to it. It's not quick and easy, but eventually you get used to it. She caught a yellowish leaf flying in the air and attentively, as if studying it, spun it in her fingers. I have a lot of experience in terms of loneliness. Katya, You're unteachable. What? How many times have I asked you not to call me Katya? But you never meant it. See, that's your problem. You always think everything in life is a game. I don't think anything like that. And even if it's a game, it's not one you can win. Although I'm glad you called. Didn't think it would happen so soon. So she didn't doubt I'd call at some point. Who's my favorite character so far? I kind of like Himitsu the most. Even if she betray me and her father's evil or something. Himitsu's kind of the cutest one. So for now, Himitsu. But as I play, maybe that will change. And I'm glad you finally realized what she is. I replied nothing and lowered my head in order to avoid looking her in the eye. Who's your favorite? Himitsu is good, very cute. So cute! No, I partially agreed with Catherine's opinion on Himitsu, but there was still nothing I could do. Even if she hadn't known about her father's real job, even if she had wanted to betray me or hide anything, all this happened already. Nothing could change the fact that she had been lying to me, even if not for long. I can understand why Himitsu treats you like she does, but you? What has she done to you? Catherine grew embarrassed and immediately tensed up. Staying with Ellie, said we don't see her often. I know. We haven't seen Ellie in We've only seen Ellie in 1 or 2 streams of this game. Ellie, where are you? Isn't what she's done to you enough? Even if we're not together anymore, it doesn't mean that. She clicked her tongue and raised her voice even more. It's a pity that you don't realize it yourself. But I did. I understood that Himitsu was dedicating herself wholeheartedly to me, yet I couldn't forgive her for a single stupid mistake. And neither could I forget about the skeletons in her closet. If not hers, then her father's. The plates of the scales were swaying back and forth. And then there was Catherine, whose intentions I hadn't understood at all for a while now. Sometimes I felt ashamed for being so spineless. You have your circumstances. You've said as much too. Maybe I have. Catherine smiled sadly, torturing the poor leaf. Winter is coming. You like winter? That's your surname. Think your surname. You know I feel the same about all 4 seasons. What about Christmas, New Year's? What would you like to get as a gift from Santa Claus? A one-way ticket away from here. 1 ticket? Catherine tilted her head and her eyes flashed. Do you want to talk about this now? What about the destination? Is that important? I tried to smooth out the awkwardness. To the moon. We were sitting there talking about nothing. That was exactly what I needed. So you're going to be the first person on the moon? Hey! Catherine gently nudged me in the side. Well, everyone knows Stanley Kubrick faked the Apollo landing. Are you asking for another Caribbean crisis? This time the missiles will be at your coast. Knowing the Japanese, I wouldn't be surprised. This is all bad, isn't it? Of course it is. I look at you and Himitsu and I see no difference, borders and nations. Maybe that's the case in a perfect world, but I would prefer to have no differences somewhere far away from here. Have you ever read Heinlein? No, why? Nothing, I just think you'd like his books. Your whole world really is science fiction, except there's no science in it. Mitsu had told me almost the same once. I've heard that somewhere before. See? What about you? You don't even have hobbies. Not for lack of desire. She replied, offended by my words. What do you mean? When do you need to move all the time? I never told you. Even in the US, we kept moving around the country every month. It's like I'm 7 years old and can't be left alone, or at least with my grandma. I didn't know. Good that you didn't. There's nothing interesting about that. Catherine stood up, smiled way too nicely, and gave me a hand. Let's go. I'm cold. Where? I like to eat something. You? Can do. A cafe? Let's go to your place. But I have nothing to eat at home. Should we order something? I replied after a short pause. Why all of a sudden? I'll cook. We just need to drop by a store on the way. Alright, let's go! Catherine spent a long time meticulously choosing groceries. I would sometimes go shopping with Himitsu and always thought of it as a routine, but now I was in awe. Catherine and I had known each other for a while, but what had we been doing usually? Yeah, that. And other dumb stuff that couples in love always do. Even now, little changed. We were fighting and scolding each other, a rather trivial thing to do for two people who had feelings for each other. Our relationships with Catherine and with Himitsu were as different from each other as a melodrama about school love and a family sitcom. Besides, mere information isn't enough. A really strong bond is formed through everyday mundane moments, and it seemed as normal to me to do this with Himitsu as I felt new with Catherine. However, there was something else. At first, all this daily stuff with a person you love creates a misleading feeling of intimacy, and that's when you start to imagine that you are like family now and will never leave each other. Hopefully, the other person is of the same opinion. Then any unexpected issues will be unexpected for both of you. However, if that isn't the case, the first problem you run into will become a long awaiting excuse for them. Katya wanted to take some lettuce, while I had a preference for Chinese cabbage. Did it really matter? In order to avoid any disputes, I relented immediately, but it made me think. It was almost evening when we reached home. I don't mean to imply anything, but isn't this a bit much? I demonstratively raised the bags in my hands, that were indeed quite heavy. Luckily, Catherine flatly refused to take my money and paid for everything. I wasn't even sure if I had enough for all that. Are you unhappy about something? It just feels like you're going to cook for a whole regiment. Maybe I am. She smiled mysteriously and entered the yard. While Catherine was cooking, I sat down in front of the TV and started to think. I could hardly expect Himitsu to visit, but if she did, it would be quite difficult to explain all this to her. The sense of intimacy with Katya was growing stronger, as if that was exactly what she was trying to accomplish. Look, thank you, really. Catherine stopped cooking and looked at me confused. I really need some support right now. And someone close around. I wanted to add, but held myself back. Happy to help. No, I'm serious. Well, so am I. The dinner was surprisingly delicious. Hamburgers and French fries, homemade. You know, I don't eat this stuff often. Fast food is one thing, but they can't compare to this. I guess it'll add at least some variety to your menu then. She was clearly hinting at Himitsu's cooking, but I didn't reply, busy consuming the burger. To be frank, I was quite skeptical when you said you could cook. What about yesterday's breakfast? Well, sometimes even pigs fly. Catherine frowned. That's not nice, you know. And I thought that it sounded quite like her and in the spirit of our recent conversations. Sorry. Luckily for you, you won't have to eat it all the time. I think Himitsu will soon. She didn't finish the phrase and suddenly quickly looked at the clock. Wait for something? I need to call my mom. The question why was on the tip of my tongue, but I restrained myself. Go ahead, you know where the phone is. Catherine talked quietly, and I wasn't really trying to listen. At the moment, I was more concerned with how to act with her going forward. Sorry that took so long. It was maybe a couple minutes. No worries. She looked a bit anxious. Is everything alright? Stupid question. Why do people ask about it? And most importantly, what answer do you expect to hear? I know what you mean. Gets to me too. Just a habit. I smiled apologetically. Let me wash the dishes. She started to hectically collect the dishes from the table. Well, okay. I returned to the TV and Catherine started to wash dishes, doing it very closely, slowly, deliberately, slow. What's on TV? Eventually she finished and sat next to me. Dangerously close. Just some garbage. But Katya was a rather straightforward girl. Usually preferred to talk directly rather than trouble herself with hints. On the other hand, I knew that in such a situation I was fully at her mercy. If she moved any closer, I'll be right back. I stood up and walked out of the kitchen without looking back. If not for Himitsu, how would I be acting right now if we hadn't fought? And what would I have done a week or two ago? Apparently I wouldn't have any qualms or conscience, and that was exactly what was stopping me at this moment. What do we really fear the most? To be caught with a lover in bed? Or that our own sense of guilt will always be there, making itself known when we look into the eyes of the person we love? The funniest thing was that I felt guilty toward Himitsu, even though we formally weren't in any kind of relationship. And now she wasn't talking to me at all. My dignity rebelled at last. Stepped by to the toilet for show, and then immediately returned to the TV. There was some sort of animal show on the screen. I don't understand anything, not a word. Katya said merrily, staring at the screen. What do you mean? Well, they use special terms, names. Oh yeah, I guess you don't know them in English either. A little bird with a giant red cape was sitting on a bench, looking important. Maybe. It's quite late already. For what? Shouldn't you go home? No. Catherine turned to me and smiled meaningfully. Are you kicking me out? It's just that your hints. I'm not trying to hint at anything. You can make me a bed in this room. I've already warned my mom. So that's why she was calling her mother. Why did it take me until now to notice that she was in her school uniform? Katya, what is this all about? I'm just tired and I feel too lazy to go home. No more than that. It's just you seeing hidden meanings and everything. I looked at the clock. It wasn't that late. This is another gamer joke of yours. If I wanted something, I would have told you. I guess she was right about that. Well, it's your call. It looks like we're having a sleepover. Woo! I was lying in my bed and I couldn't close my eyes, mostly because of the fact that Catherine was sleeping in the other room. Or was she? She could easily come in the middle of the night and lie next to me. She'd get cold, or scared, or lonely. She would find a reason to come up with an excuse, and in the morning I would end up the one to blame anyway. But even more than that, I was terrified by my own desires. I wouldn't have called myself a masochist, but in our relationship, she was definitely the sadist. The silence of the night felt oppressive. I walked through the house, trying to avoid the kitchen and close all the doors from inside. God spare me if Himitsu decided to come in the morning. Having locked and deadbolted all the doors, I finally managed to fall asleep. Yay! The next day, the 24th. Anything that can go wrong will go wrong. Murphy's Law. I don't think that in my circumstances the wording was that important, but I still wouldn't say that something just went wrong that morning. That would be quite an understatement. Oh no, is something gonna go wrong this morning? Can something not go wrong though? I was woken up by shouting in the kitchen. I jumped up and dashed to the source of the noise with only my underpants on. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Catherine and Himitsu were standing in the middle of the room going at each other at max volume. You could at least put some clothes on. Katya smirked. Oh yeah, sorry. I replied automatically and returned to my bedroom. Nico-kun! Himitsu's angry voice reached me. I quickly put on my shirt and pants and returned to the battlefield. Nico-kun, what is she doing here? Early in the morning, too? Nothing really. You don't have to make excuses for her. I'll show you excuses. Oh, snap. Battle. Maybe even a cat fight? Oh, she's angry. Look at her now. Ho ho ho. Himitsu was about to throw herself at Catherine, and I had to grab her by the arms. It's your own fault. Nico-kun, let me go. I will when you calm down. How can I calm down when she... Himitsu was choking on her own fury, and it was scaring me. I couldn't remember ever seeing her like this. Still smiling, bitch. She kept trying to break free, burying her teeth at Catherine like an animal. How does it feel to be such an unfeeling piece of shit, huh? No idea. How does it? You take what you haven't earned, what you don't deserve. Sunshine, that's enough. Don't call me that. Himitsu choked on her anger. Nico-kun, tell me just one thing. Did you two flirt? What if we did? I'm not talking to you. No, we didn't. My voice was trembling, and I couldn't understand why. After all, I was telling the truth. Catherine kept smirking, my uncertainty seeming to entertain her even more. Nico-kun, stop lying! I'm not. I finally declared with confidence. But even if nothing happened between Catherine and me, was Himitsu going to believe it? And what was I supposed to do? I decided I wasn't going to spy on her father, and he had stated clearly yesterday that he didn't want to see Himitsu around me. Nico-kun, I came here just for you, even after my dad warned me not to talk to you anymore. Exactly. She couldn't just throw me out of her life, and so would keep sinking ever deeper into my problems, and jeopardize herself more and more. I hope that we would talk and make up, that you would understand. She stopped fighting me, but was still breathing heavily. But as soon as I left you alone, you immediately ran to her. So that's what all your promises and words of love are worth. Words of love? Catherine looked as if she were in the audience at a comedy show. Has he gotten better at phrasing those in the past couple years, I wonder? Shut up, bitch. It's all because of you. If you were never in our lives. But I am. In his life. And moreover, I never lie to Nick. You! Mitsu burst into deep, dull sobs, and I finally released her. Now overwhelmed by emotion, she might do something stupid and harm not only me, but also herself. For example, she could tell her father for something she shouldn't. So it would be better if we didn't communicate any longer. Himitsu, you need to calm down. Go home, I said quietly. What? Me? Home? What about her? Go home, Himitsu. I repeated as quickly as before. Nico-kun! She pleaded, but I just kept staring at the floor without saying a word. So that's how it is. She burst into tears and ran away. If you need my opinion, I'd say you did the right thing. How exactly did she come in if I locked all the doors from inside at night? I opened the door for her. Catherine replied calmly. A lump of burning resentment swelled in my throat. So you set the whole thing up. I said through clenched teeth. Even if I did, what does it change? Catherine frowned and gave me a serious look. Oh my gosh, I gotta stretch. Serious look. Oh, come on. Poor Himitsu. I know, right? Before you unleash your righteous wrath, let me tell you something about your innocent Himitsu. At the time, I found it hard to tell you everything right away, so I decided to ask for her advice first. Catherine pursed her lips and looked away. I only knew she was such a whatever. She pulled herself together and continued. Mom had told me that we had to leave, and of course I was glad, even happy, except there was you. My heart started to beat faster. I just didn't have the choice, understand? Even if I wanted to stay, I simply needed to tell you everything, but you know, I'm not good at this type of stuff. So I had wanted it to discuss it with her, with the person who knows you best. And what did I get in return? Well, what? Don't act like you don't understand. You started this, so be kind. So be kind to see it to the end. That's what she was waiting for. If I hadn't left that time, she would have found another excuse. So all of this is your revenge? Katya turned to me abruptly and made me feel guilty with a single look. She doesn't deserve the honor. I just wanted to show you her real face. And I hadn't expected such fakeness from Catherine, especially after such a long time. But at the same time, I still couldn't figure out what Himitsu had said to her. I understand that you don't have the best relationship with her. Maybe things weren't great back then either, but you had to have expected this kind of reaction. Just because you're also a girl does and know all of this on a much more sophisticated level than me. So you really don't understand. Apparently not. Yeah, of course. What did I even expect? I don't know what you're getting at, but it doesn't excuse you in the slightest. Our relationship is worse than ever anyway. I should have known. I grasped my head and thrashed back and forth. Leave, please. Now you're kicking me out, too. Just leave. I didn't raise my voice, but it was enough for Catherine. She slowly walked to the hall and closed the front door behind her demonstratively slowly. I think that went rather well, Mafia Babe. Really, really, really well. I don't know what it feels like to being on a desert island, but I think in a way it must be easier than being a social outcast. It went so well. We all kept our lives. At least the islander knows that people ignore him not for their own reasons, but because there just isn't anyone around for hundreds or even thousands of kilometers. Who feels more hungry? The person in a prison cell, or the person forced to observe a luxurious banquet? I don't think I was really upset with Catherine. Surprised, disappointed, but not upset. Unfortunately, something like that was to be expected of her, and by doing this she was pushing the love for that Katya further and further out of my heart, and I was just too tired. However, her words still rang clear in my mind. What exactly had happened between them back then? Catherine wouldn't get mad over nothing, and if she hated Himitsu that much, was Katya even capable of genuine hatred? What had to have happened to evoke such a strong, baleful emotion in her? I just couldn't imagine Himitsu doing something worthy of it. While thinking about all this, I didn't even notice how I got to school by the time the second class started. In reality, I had absolutely no reason to be here, but it wasn't any worse than any other place. This wasn't even about Irina. Did her threats really matter about my talk with Himitsu's father? And what really did matter? What did I have left in my life? Naturally, Catherine wasn't at school. I wouldn't be surprised if Himitsu skipped classes as well. I was sitting and looking out the window, unplugged from the rest of the world. The strong autumn wind was mercilessly shaking the trees in the schoolyard, but with the last bits of strength they resisted, not giving up their red and yellow foliage to it. It wouldn't last long, however. By nature's will, they would become naked and helpless before the first frost and the coming cold. But the wind didn't need those old leaves. Blowing is its destiny. It can't exist otherwise. Perhaps Catherine's destiny was to wreck my life. Hang on. Now is a good time for a drink. Whew. This was after 2 hours of not drinking anything. Oh boy. Michael approached me during a break. God, again? It was hard to guess from his facial expression what he was going to talk about, but I got preliminary tense. Let's just not go over the same thing again. I just thought you had some time to think. Her persistence was enviable, but now in particular, this behavior was frankly inappropriate, at least not here for everyone to see. Or was he deliberately trying to make me sad? I've already thought it through and told you everything. We discussed it only a couple of days ago. Yes, but I still haven't gotten a clear answer from you. A clear answer? I smirked and flung my hand in the air. The usual level of noise in the classroom became noticeably lower. Do you want a piece of advice? I'll give you one for free today. Run away from her without looking back. Otherwise, she'll ruin your life the same as she ruined mine. I was stepping out on the same rake again. Not only was Michael listening to me, but the entire class. Except I couldn't care less. Shall I take that as an affirmative answer? Are we doing math here? Affirmative, negative? What the fucking difference? You know what? If you need her so much, take her. Mafia Babe, can you tell everyone to stop swearing, please? Just, my gosh. I thought this was a Christian stream. No F's, no swears. I said and quickly walked out of the classroom. The nastiest thing was, and I scolded myself for it without end, that I couldn't even get mad at Catherine, even though I had every right to. Any normal person would. Good afternoon, senpai. Someone from a junior grade greeted me politely. How did he know me, and why did he talk to me at all? Didn't everyone in the school know that Nikolai Anokin is a dangerous sociopath? I passed by Himitsu's classroom and looked inside for a moment, but there was no one behind her desk. Think you can stop Nick? He's a little angry. Yeah, but... Yeah... Fair enough. Hey, that's something you say. Fair enough. After afraid of running into Saya-chan, I quickly ran up the stairs, taking them 2 at a time, as could be expected, finding myself on the roof. Somebody was sitting on the bench, and I was about to think that it was Kagome, but it wasn't her. Oh my god! Well, look who it is, Mafia babe. Look who's back. The girl was holding back her long blonde hair as it fluttered in the wind like a ship's sail in an Alexander Grin novel. I recognized Ellie, but even though I couldn't see her face, I thought she seemed sad, looking into the distance at the massive city from the school's roof like you'd look into the horizon of the ocean, expecting the return of a beloved. I wondered if she had a boyfriend. I drove these foolish thoughts away and approached the uncrowned queen of the school. Hi, I hope I'm not intruding. She raised her head and looked at me surprised. Hoodlum-kun? Kobayashi-san. I put a semblance of sarcastic smirk on my face. Actually, my name is Nick. I see. Ellie looked upset and was behaving far less energetic than usual. Sorry if I'm prying. Did something happen? Nothing important, just some family problems. I understand. Actually, no, I don't. I added immediately and sat down next to her, keeping the distance allowed by decency. I'm alone. I live alone. Is that so? She clearly wasn't in the mood for a chat. By the way, I was at your concert. You play really well. Finally, Ellie brightened up and cast a glance in my direction. Yeah, right. I saw you. You were staring at me the entire concert. You wouldn't let me play. I was there by accident. I just swung by that club on occasion. And what a lucky coincidence that we were playing there at that time. Yes, it was. Just a coincidence, I'll have you know. It happens, and everything in the world revolves around you and your family. The last part was clearly too much, and Ellie smiled sadly and looked away. Yeah, sure, you're right. It's just, you know. She started but sighed heavily and went silent. No, you don't. Explain then. Here we go again. Sorry, but I really don't feel like it. How many times can you explain the same thing? Would talking really change anything? What an interesting observation. I was constantly boiling in a cauldron filled with painful introspections and regular fights with Himitsu and Catherine. Well, you have your music to distract you. Yeah, for now. I think you should keep doing it. You clearly have a talent. I was staring at the vapor trail left by a plane, added wistfully, you know, I even envy you in a sense. Not because of all this school queen and heiress of the Kobayashi Empire stuff, but because you have something of your own. Something that you do well and something you want to pursue. A calling, I guess, a life goal. I'm not really good at saying this stuff. Sorry. Finally, I looked at Ellie. She lowered her head and blushed a bit. Everything sounds so easy if I just listen to you. Well, I don't know if it's easy or not. I'm just judging your situation from the perspective of a layperson. So to say, who has nothing than that in his life? Maybe that's for the better. Ellie jumped off the bench, shaking her head, golden hair flying side to side, the faint smell of perfume reaching my nose. It took a considerable effort to hide my embarrassment from this girl. Well, okay, hoodlum Nick-kun. See you later. Bye. I responded timidly and remained in my place. Aw, sorry, Mafia babe. She's gone. I didn't know whether Kobayashi-san had a real crown, but once a long time ago, I had given one to a little girl, a neighbor of mine. I couldn't get used to the fact that the school year in Japan starts in spring. After graduating from this primary school at the embassy, I went to a normal secondary school with normal children. She needs more screen time, I know. Where's Ellie's moment in the spotlight? Maybe a bit of an elite one. From childhood, Himitsu wanted to be in the same class as me, but her poor health hadn't allowed that. But we still ended up in the same school. She was just a grade lower. She then skipped spring and summer semesters due to illness, and managed to go to school with me only in autumn. It must have been the end of September as well. Oh, Hi. Nichan! Endearing, diminutive, and formal way to address an older brother or a close friend. There you have it. Himitsu was pulling at my sleeve. I asked you not to call me that anymore, especially at school, I said sternly. Okay. She replied sadly and lowered her head. We're adults now, at least I am. So what should I call you then? I don't know. I thought for a second. The question was an important one for a child. I have a classmate, Kyosuke. I'll introduce you. He calls me Nick. Nico. Use syllabary, so words usually end on a vowel. Oh. Himitsu uttered in the Japanese style. No way, that sounded like the name of a mafia boss. Don Nico. Mafia boss? Mafia babe, mafia boss? You're in this game? She laughed. You can come with me. You came to me with a request. But you don't ask with respect. You don't even think to use Keiko. Mitsu laughed even harder. Nico don't know. Japanese honorific is similar to addressing someone as Your Grace. Yeah, apparently. I guess so. Well, no need to be that formal. Even grew a bit embarrassed. Then, the stress of heavy thinking found a reflection of it on her childish face. Nico-kun? She suggested timidly. I paused. Should do for now. Well, then you should also call me something like something like that. Like what? Oh, Mitsu-sama! Play on words with Ojo-sama, princess. I listen and obey, my mistress Ohi Mitsu-sama. That sounds effing stupid, actually. We were approaching the school, and more I noticed Himitsu's little shoulders tremble. She was clearly very nervous, but trying not to show it. Cute, I know, right? I love it. A yellow leaf fell at my feet, then another one, then another. I started to pick them up. Nico-kun, she said slowly, as if she was trying to taste the new word. What are you doing? You'll see soon. When I gathered enough leaves, I took a fishing line out of my bag and began to string the leaves on it. You can find anything in a little rascal's bag, and sometimes things weirder than a fishing line. When I finished, the resulting composition mostly resembled a washing line with the colorful rags hung on it. Every princess should have a crown. I barely managed to mount this little something on Himitsu's head. This leaf stubbornly refused to stand vertically still, and following the laws of physics, were falling, dripping over her head. In the end, Himitsu resembled a bald old man, with hair only remaining on her temples, nape, and also forehead. Oh, it's so cute! Himitsu sang, opened her bag, and took a little mirror out of it. Are you sure you want to see this? I said in a theatrical, serious voice, and slowly took a few steps aside. She looked at herself in the mirror attentively and smiled. Smiled so cutely that for a moment it seemed that a crown made of leaves shone with all the colors of a golden autumn. I got embarrassed, and not because I was seeing a beautiful girl, which has happened to me before, but because that girl suddenly turned out to be Himitsu. Alright, let's go. I habitually took her by the hand and quickly walked to the school. Nico-kun, he called to me in a more confident voice. And if someone asks, you'll say that you're my sister, got it? A juvenile maximalism was still there, after all. Nico-kun. And we have a different surnames because you were adopted. Or I was, whatever. That's why we don't look alike. Nico-kun. But that's only if someone asked. Otherwise, we don't even know each other at all. And you're a grade lower than me. If you ask me, I don't understand all this division at all. Nichan, Himitsu said loudly at last. What? She pointedly looked at her latched hands. Yeah. I instantly released her hands and felt blood rush to my face. Just a habit that we should ditch too. You're taking this so seriously. She giggled. It's because it's vital to start off on the right foot. Understood. Himitsu quickly said solemnly and pouted. And take this mess off your head already. She carefully removed the crown and put it in her bag. You could just throw it away, I muttered. Why? It'll be a reminder that I'm a prince and you're my prince. Are you starting this again? I pinched her side hard. Ouch! Nick. Kyosuke Mary greeting reached us from afar. Alright, here comes. I think that was a flashback. That crown must have long dried out and turned to dust, although I was sure that Himitsu kept it somewhere in a wardrobe for a long time after. It can sometimes seem that entire segments of life, hours, days, years, are erased from memory, but if you really try, you can always recall them. I sat on the roof for about an hour, reminiscing, or perhaps that's merely how it seemed to me, because the hour hand was stubbornly approaching 2 o'clock in the afternoon. My stomach growled, and I returned to sinful earth, now with more than just my thoughts. Who's that? Who's this person? It was too late to go to the canteen, and unfortunately my funds were quite limited, so I returned to the classroom, quickly packing up my bag, and ignoring Kyosuke, left school. On the way home, I was thinking about Mai and Himitsu's childhood. She probably wasn't a real fairy tale princess to me. I felt more like me being Peter Pan and her Wendy. Wendy returned to the real world, and I forever remained in Neverland, where children don't grow up. Lost in thought, I was almost run over by a car. The old empty house welcomed me coldly, as usual, with its silence broken only by the creaks of floorboards, dust dancing in the sunlight that reached the kitchen from the garden, and by now familiar atmosphere of loneliness. I didn't expect Himitsu to come today. Didn't hope for her tasty cooking, but I was starving, having not had lunch or even breakfast. I might starve to death, guys. Yay! Luckily, there was a lot left after Catherine's visit. The bartender would call the thing I cooked kolya stew, or kolya chowder, as the abundance of soy sauce made the dish pretty watery. Not that I cared, at least it was edible. After washing the dishes, I turned the TV on and pointlessly stared at the screen. All my thoughts were focused on Himitsu. I seemed to have forgotten Catherine completely, and when I did remember her, I felt disgust. I didn't know what she blamed Himitsu for, but Himitsu had the full right to blame her for the situation we found ourselves in. I recalled more and more memories of our childhood, and the events that happened relatively recently. I replayed these memories in my mind fondly, studying each of them for a good while, then going to the next. I guess that was how projectionists rotated the handles of their projectors, carefully, trying not to damage the film. But then the movies would come to an end and give way to harsh reality. In the silence of the house, I could hear a car drive into Himitsu's yard. Ryunosuke-san seemed to have come home early. Actually, it was none of my business. Not anymore. I felt a lump in my throat. Too much connected us for our relationship to be completely broken in a single moment, even if for a good reason. And it wasn't the only fact that we grew up together, and that Himitsu loved me. Not only the serious matters. The little things that made up our daily life were equally important. Even the fights and grievances, the tears and sorrow, the diseases and hardships. It was important that we had gone through all that together, hand in hand, and I could never imagine that one day Himitsu wouldn't be around. For her it was love, a self-explanatory feeling. I had always considered it friendship, but the past weeks it had turned it upside down. I heard voices coming from outside. I couldn't understand anything, but it was clearly Ryunosuke talking loudly, as if he were having an argument with someone, and I heard the shrieking wheels of a leaving car. I couldn't remember Himitsu's mother at all, but I hoped that Himitsu inherited her personality and not her father's. It was weird, but the whole day I had barely thought about Ryunosuke-san's threat. After all, I was the one who screwed everything up. Of course, Catherine had helped, but it was in my power not to allow her to enter my house, or at least kick her out in the evening and not let her stay overnight. So suddenly, I felt painfully lonely. There are several kinds of loneliness, and the one I was experiencing was the nastiest. It was a loneliness I had brought on myself. Of course, I could call Kyosuke, but I was a bit ashamed since I've been ignoring him a lot these days, and I couldn't even think of calling Michael. Who else did I have left? Himitsu? Catherine? No thanks, I've already called her enough to make me want to vomit. I jumped off the chair and started to walk around the kitchen in circles. The evening was slowly coming, and I desperately wanted for this day to end. I just physically couldn't stand being alone with my thoughts. So I washed some clothes, vacuumed the entire house, wiped the dust off the wardrobes, went through boxes, cleaned the kitchen, took a shower. That's how you spend your day. I finished almost at midnight, and exhausted fell straight to bed. while a bit dizzy and my entire body was taken by pleasant fatigue. How did Himitsu even handle this on a daily basis? She shouldn't have become an athlete. I recalled Himitsu's slim body and got noticeably aroused. My brain was pierced by a sudden thought. I wanted her as a woman. Oh no! Not only sexually, like I had always wanted with Catherine, but entire and undividedly. I didn't want to give her to anybody or to let her go anywhere. Such a pity that it was too late. I rolled over and covered my head with a pillow. You don't know what you got until you lose it. What was that the saying? Even though I had spent almost my entire life in Japan, I still felt like a Russian with all the pros and cons. Guess I never adapted fully. But then why did I always feel so good with Himitsu? She was much more Japanese than Russian, and at the same time, I was struggling with Catherine and Michael, people who with an inherently European mentality. It was most likely about the upbringing, not the place of origin. Applied dialects at 1 in the morning, that was so typical of me. No, seriously, I would have enrolled in the philosophical faculty of the University of Tokyo if they accepted me, and if I had the money. I felt so pathetic that it even made me laugh. Ha ha ha. After the laugh came the tears. I couldn't even remember the last time I cried, and after that, heavy, as if delirious oblivion. I keep hearing beeps. The 25th. I was woken up by the officious ringing of my alarm clock, but I immediately made the difficult decision to keep sleeping and turned it off with a single accurate hit. Irina's recommendations regarding maintaining my normal lifestyle didn't bother me anymore, and it was silly to expect Himitsu to come. Yesterday's distress returned right away, making my head feel as if it were swelling up like the inner tube of an old tire. I woke up again at 11 o'clock, and as luck would have it, I felt rested and refreshed. I was always extremely annoyed by this kind of contrast between mental and physical conditions. You want to hang yourself but can't run a marathon. After forcing myself to take a shower, I walked into the kitchen. It turned out that Catherine and I hadn't bought as much food as I thought. It was more or less just enough for breakfast. Over and over I kept thinking about how Himitsu wouldn't come anyway. She wouldn't bring food or make a delicious dinner. Then it was time, at 18 years old, to learn how to take care of myself. I didn't know if I had really reconciled myself with the loss of Himitsu, but I needed to move on somehow. Besides, it would be great if I could buy some new plates to replace the ones she had broken. The sunshine was friendly, but already autumn-appropriate cold, which didn't stop the people on the streets from smiling and looking wonderfully happy. Here was a child with his mom, laughing and holding a balloon string in his little fist. If I had 100 of those, I would have hung myself with them, then flown over Tokyo for the sake of the world's entertainment. When you feel bad, others always seem to be doing much better than you. Half an hour later, I reached the office of my bank to withdraw some money. Sometimes I wish to have been born earlier and participated in the student strikes in the 60s, to cast off the chains of capitalism in righteous anger together with my comrades. But then almost every month I would come here, and with my head lowered, wait for a friendly clerk in the window to give me the money I needed to live. That's how the noble intentions of another young guy was broken against the harsh cliffs of reality. Today, however, it seemed like the entire world was against me. The nameless clerk in his gray suit was a theoretically concerned expression, informed me that my bank account had been blocked. I argued with him for a good half an hour, raising my voice, even shouted it was all pointless. I was never given a reason why. It even took the help of the guards to get me out of the bank. I sat down on the bench outside and tried to catch my breath. One thing was clear, it was no coincidence or accident. Coincidence that like this simply didn't exist. The KGB? Kobayashi Corporation? Japanese intelligence? Himitsu's father? When it rains, it pours. Or to be more precise, when it seems that things can't get worse, life will always surprise you. I didn't know what to do now. I didn't even want to think about it. Surprisingly, I had never been troubled by the thought of what I would do when I ran out of money. Or to be exact, I had only thought about it in an abstract philosophical context. Like I would go to work, maybe become a shop assistant or get another job where they don't require a degree. However, I never believed that it would really happen. During this year and a half, my monthly visits to the bank seemed completely natural and unquestionable to me, even though any normal person in my place would have first asked themselves where the money was coming from. My father's bank account? Maybe, but this explanation only raised new questions. Perhaps I was afraid to think about it and learn the truth, or break my once established lifestyle. Maybe not the best one, limping with both legs, but without any turmoil or disturbances. And with Himitsu, I was sitting there dazed for an hour, but eventually began to come to my senses. It was time to call Ichinose again. He had told me that I shouldn't trouble him for anything insignificant. My life wasn't insignificant, and I couldn't survive in this world of victorious capitalism and Japanese economic miracles without money. Basically sprinted into my house, grabbed the receiver, and dialed the number from memory with shaking hands. The dial tone seemed to continue forever, my heart managing to beat multiple times every second. No reply. I called again and again, but with no success. Alright, I needed to calm down. Maybe they just went out to do some shopping. Yeah, I guess they did. After all, they need to eat something. Looked at the clock, it was 1 o'clock. A good time to buy some groceries. Groceries, god damn it! When I had nothing to eat myself. I furiously kicked the nightstand, wanted to hit my phone, but instantly realized that if I broke it, I would have no money to buy a new one. My situation was getting more and more serious. Why didn't they just kill me? It would be easier for everyone, including me, I guess. Besides, Maslow was right with his hierarchy. My stomach growled, and I realized if I didn't do something, then the breakfast made of the remains of Catherine's shopping would become my last meal for today. But who could I ask for advice or help? I dialed Ichinose's nephew's number again, and again nobody responded. I recalled an old film in which a policeman was interrogating a suspect. A tiny poorly lit room, a little table in the middle of it, and a dim lamp with a wide shade, drowning in clubs of cigarette smoke. The detective with his sleeves rolled up leaned up the table and asked for the suspect. How did you end up here? The film was probably made in the 1950s. The actors' profiles seemed to be carved out of stone. Big noses, strong wide foreheads, eyebrows pulled together, plastered swept back hair. I imagined myself on the other end of the table. How did you end up here, Nikolai? Out of all the people I knew, Ryunosuke-san seemed to resemble the detective the most. Just like last night, I was seized by a fit of nervous laughter. Okay, nothing's definitely gonna get worse. My brain started to work feverishly. Kagome was the only person who could know more about my situation. I'm gonna be homeless, Mafia babe. Yay! I ran out of my house and hurried to school, hoping that I could make it. On my way to school, I was desperately trying to recall how many classes we were supposed to have today, but the lack of oxygen was making blood pulsate in my head, and it was hard to focus. So one might find a catty irony in the fact that my last hope was Kagome. Poor Nick, I know. This poor dude just wants to be a normal high schooler and live life. My last hope was Kagome. Not Stanley Kubrick's kind of irony, but rather Alfred Hitchcock's painful sarcasm. Finally, I saw the school around the corner and stopped completely exhausted. Groups of students were walking down the street, and I recognized a few classmates, which meant classes were all over already. With one last push, I virtually flew through the gates and came face to face with Kagome. At least I was lucky with someone. You was wheezing, desperately sucking air through my mouth. Have you gone totally mad? Kagome hissed, took me by the arm, and pulled me aside. Yes, you're exactly the person I need, I finally articulated. We need to talk. Well, not here. Why not? Nothing. Let's go. She abruptly jerked her head in the direction of the school gates and gave me a harsh look. Iwamura walked fast, and I was barely managing to keep up, exhausted from the long run. Sometime later, we found ourselves in our trade district. Let's go to a cafe? She asked seemingly casually. Yeah, why not? I wanted to agree, but immediately interrupted myself. I can't really. Got no money. That's part of my problem. Kagome looked at me closely as if studying me, testing my reactions to stimuli like a lab rat. Seem a bit different today. Different? Well, more polite, I guess. She was clearly about to get angry, but smiled instead. Looks like you really have something to say. We stopped by an we stopped by an electronics shop. Just recently I wanted to buy a new TV, but I'd been too stingy. And what has happened to that stinginess now? When I was choked with hunger, it was doubly unpleasant to realize that the things normally available to me just yesterday had become a luxury. Well, I'm listening. Hope you aren't going to ask me to lend you some money. No. Well, definitely not you, I thought to myself. Have you found out anything about our case? Knew about our case? Our case? Kagome's loud laughter sounded somewhat unnatural. Since when do we have any cases in common? You know what I'm talking about. Maybe, but I've already solved my problem, and without your help, do note. Solved? How? I froze, dumbfounded. Doesn't matter, it's none of your business, and never was. It seemed like there was a fight happening inside of her, whether she should have told me more. But in the end, Kagome looked at me again, and her eyes became cold and focused. Try to understand. I'm in a desperate situation, and it's getting worse by the day. What do I have to do with it? Have you helped me? How much have you told me? I've told you everything I know. Although, of course, that was a lie. And it made me feel even worse if I had treated Kagome differently in the past. Who knows? Oh my gosh. You don't even believe what you're saying. I can see it in your eyes. Oh, so you're a mind reader now? I snapped at her. Well, nothing to talk about then. She sighed and turned away, preparing to leave. Wait, I said loudly and grabbed her by a hand. Kagome started to shake. Don't touch me, she said quietly, but didn't try to break free. Sorry, I just have nobody else to turn to, it's true. I believe that, she replied quietly with her back turned to me. But it doesn't change anything. I couldn't help you even if I wanted to. My arms fell impotently, and this time I didn't stop her. I was slowly walking home when passing the school building, I saw Michael. A light of hope once again lit up in the darkness of my life. Michael! He stopped and looked at me emotionlessly. Hi! I greeted him a bit too enthusiastically, coming closer. Michael merely nodded slightly. You're a bit late today. There was something I needed to discuss with the teachers. I see. Did you want to talk about something? Yeah, you see, I got a problem, and my bank transaction got delayed, and... I was lying shamelessly. Could you lend me some money? It's just until Monday, then I'm going to handle it. Nothing serious. Just a little hitch, so to say. Michael gave a somewhat supercilious look. Don't you think you're asking the wrong person? I don't need much. 10,000 yen would do. I would have loved to see this fervor when I needed something from you. Catherine, her again. Michael clearly had a crush on her, and I had been more or less telling him to fuck off at the smallest hint of a conversation of the topic. Yeah, I'm sorry, but that wasn't really, I mean, I understand how I acted wasn't good, but it's a really extreme situation, bro. My bro? Michael seemed to even wince at my bro. Nick, he sighed eventually and closed his eyes wearily. I will not lend you money. I just need, and I will not apologize for that. Hope you understand why. My stomach seemed to drop, and I felt as if I grew smaller. Okay, do you know if Kyosuke is still at school? Left with the others around an hour ago, which means he was home by now. Well, it was equally possible he could be at the arcades or at the manga store. Well, don't hold a grudge. See you. I walked past him and waved my hand without looking back. Naturally, I was pissed at Michael. Kagome, with all her problems, was one thing after all. Her father had been kidnapped. But Michael and 10,000 yen was barely a sum for him, which for me would be enough to live another week. Again with his stupid principles and straightforwardness. Oh, look! Mafia babe, there's a cat. Ah! Where was I? Oh yeah, I couldn't understand that at all. First, he needed a kiss-off in regards to Catherine. A green light, nothing more than that. And now what? And now, what was that? Revenge? I know. A lot of kitties in this game so far. It was too banal and rude for a person like him. Maybe there was an educational element in all this, but that was even worse. Wanted to teach me a lesson, freak. I clenched my fist so hard that it became blue and ground my teeth, and immediately I felt disgusted with myself. I was ready to break the face of one of my few friends for a lousy 10,000 yen. To hell with Catherine and everything that had happened recently. Is this really what I've become? On my own, without any help from others? It was that period in Tokyo's weather when that season really started to stand apart from summer. Just a couple of weeks ago, 4 o'clock would have been the middle of the afternoon, but now I could feel the evening approaching. My only salvation was Kyosuke, so I reluctantly walked to his place. My rotund friend lives really close to our school. Would have been surprised if that hadn't been the case. I couldn't imagine Kyosuke jostling in a crowded train carriage every day. His family lived in a relatively entire apartment complex by local standards. His mother was a housewife, while his father was some kind of government official. They weren't the richest family at our school, and definitely no match for the Kobayashi clan, but that was one of the things I liked about Kyosuke. Ooh, here's his room. Is that Gundam I see? Multiple Gundams? Oh, and look! It's Nausicaa! Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind. Awesome. I don't recognize this. Oh, what else is in this room? Oh, I can't see all that much. What are those down there? Doesn't matter though, he is Nausicaa. Oh, good. New favorite character, Mafia Babe. 10 minutes later, I was sitting in his room with a cup of tea courteously offered by his mom. As it often happens, she was setting me as an example to Kyosuke, sincerely believing that I was more hardworking and generally better at socially adapting. What a naive woman. Kyosuke himself naturally always reacted painfully to these comparisons, but never blamed me for them. His room looks like the era of a true otaku, posters on the wall, manga, and videotapes on the shelves. Despite the fact that his mother cleaned here regularly, nothing seemed to be in order. Hi there, what are we going to do? It seemed that Kyosuke was genuinely delighted to see me. I have something to discuss, but to ask him for money like that without any preamble? It didn't work with Michael. I've been really busy recently, can't even find the time to go to school. Yeah, I don't see you there often these days, he said seriously and continued in a lighter voice. You'll never believe what Kurosaki did. That seemed to be the name of the guy whose face I punched at the school gate. Oh man, that was forever ago. He seemed to have happened so long ago. As if in another life. What? That sounded politeness. He came to school totally drunk. Even I had never done that. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I wonder what the principal told him. They say he might get expelled. Well, he probably deserves it. He didn't even know who Kurosaki is, right? Kyosuke squinted slyly at me and leaned on a flimsy table with his whole massive body. I know, of course I do. However, I still couldn't stand looking him in the eye and looked away. Okay, Nick, tell me what's up. You're a shitty liar anyway. I got a problem with my bank. Just a little thing. The end of the month, they're flat out, you know? They have some sort of glitch in their system, so I couldn't withdraw money from my account. Judging by Kyosuke's look, I could see he understood nothing. Anyway, can you lend me some money? I summed it up in a more serious tone. This isn't the best time, Nick. It's the end of the month for me, too. I'll get my pocket money next week, and I still wanted to buy some Tanko bonds. A book. Japanese term for a book that is not part of an anthology or corpus. In modern Japanese, the term is most often used in reference to individual volumes of a manga series. Cool. Kyosuke, damn it, I have nothing to eat and you're still talking about your manga. Wait, what, is that bad? I looked genuinely concerned. Yes. Will you tell me what happened? No. Haha, when it comes to asking for money, so you won't lend me any? I interrupted him rudely. Not about money, Nick. Don't you understand? I hesitated for some time. Was it a good idea to tell him the truth? Wasn't worried about Kyosuke's safety, but was genuinely concerned that he wouldn't be able to keep his mouth shut. I'm in some trouble. That's what you need friends for. He gave me a too-wide smile, which even made me shudder a bit. No histrionics now. We're not in an anime. Unfortunately. To a certain extent, I was positive that Kyosuke would give me money, even if he didn't learn the entire truth. At the same time, I came to a clear realization that I had pushed away everyone I could, and in a lot of senses put myself in this situation. Do you have anything stronger? I sighed with an unhappy smirk, fidgeting the cup of tea in my hands and started. I hope you noticed that my life has been pretty fucked up lately. Well, it turned out that my parents' death wasn't an accident. I got contacted by KGB agents and later by Japanese intelligence. I prudently decided not to tell him about Himitsu's father. It's all somehow related to my father's work, but I don't know much about it myself. Kioski was listening to me with his mouth open. Suddenly, his face brightened as if he finally realized something important. The corners of his mouth went up, and he squinted happily. Are you and Michael trying to play a trick on me? Do you think that I would buy that so easily? No way. God damn it, Kioski, you don't joke about this stuff. I smashed my fist down on the table, and the tea got spilt all over the place, and covered the magazine that lay on it. Sorry, just be a bit more serious. I took some napkins and started to wipe the table. So, what are you going to do now? It seemed that he finally figured out that I was indeed not doing well. Well, for starters, I could eat something. I can help with that, he replied confidently. Kioski's mom, as rotund as him, made food for the slaughter, so to say. One of her standard portions would do a normal person for several days. Even normally, everything was incredibly delicious, but now I was eating like Mayakovsky's Ichthyosaurus. Referred to Blibla's Hymn to the Scientist. Okay. Cool. Her food infallible friend, Fried, always came up with incredible amounts of oil and fat, spices, salts, and herbs. Kioski himself was eating so active when he was sweating. After we finished the celebration of hedonism, we returned to his room. I was saying in a half-whisper. I couldn't even breathe normally. If I had lived here, I'd end up having a heart attack. Leave off. Alright, back to our talk. His face instantly turned serious. Are you in danger? I don't know. I guess so. The question is, what kind of danger? I didn't want to scare Kioski too much, given he was impressionable enough already. I don't think they want to kill me, otherwise I'd be long dead. But ruining my life is another matter. Maybe you could go to the police. What do you think, provided that Japanese intelligence is involved? Yeah, right. He bit his lip and started to think. So, what about... yeah. Kioski began to fuss about and picked up a wallet from the table. I don't have much. Here, that's all. He gave me a thin bundle, so I started to count. If you want, I could ask more from my mom. I can come up with an excuse. It was almost 30,000 yen. Alright, no need. That should do for now. And thank you. Not at all. If I can help you with anything else, just let me know. Definitely. And, Nick, don't disappear. He looked at me in the eye. I'll do my best. I smiled weakly and stood up. Kioski was shaking my hand firmly for quite some time, bidding farewell. Well, that was nice. That was a nice visit. I'd probably never been so meticulous at choosing groceries, guiding many mainly by their prices. Stretch. Oh, man. What is more, I had hardly ever looked at the prices before. It came as a surprise to me that there were certain point in buying paper plates. They were cheap, and I at least didn't have to wash them. But seriously speaking, the minimum amount of groceries necessary for my survival didn't turn out to be as expensive as I expected. Of course, in the different circumstances, I would have taken a good pile of sweets, chips, or even steak meat. It was getting colder and colder in Tokyo. Even if the temperature on the thermometer wasn't changing much yet, my gut, with some kind of internal thermometer of its own, warned of the inevitable coming of the cold. I was always surprised by a sort of symmetry of the seasons. Autumn and spring. September much resembles May, while November is closer to March. Your Wi-Fi's being goofy? Oh no. Not goofy Wi-Fi. Many differences in their mood. Spring is the time of new hope, while autumn is a sober period for wise thinking about life, or useless introspection in my case. Loaded with food, bags, and household supplies, I approached my house when the sun was already setting in the west, painting the entire horizon red. Somebody was sitting on the stairs, somebody wearing our school uniform. I instantly grew hopeful. It was just Saya-chan. Hi there! Nikolai is saying, Phys Cult Privet, a half-joking happy greeting originating in the USSR that can be roughly translated as Phys Ed Hello. Hi there. I said it in Russian. Huh? She raised her head and looked at me with bewilderment. It seemed she had fallen asleep. You're back, finally. Saya quickly regained her senses. Would you like to explain yourself? So what am I guilty of this time? As if you don't know yourself. I put the bags on the ground and let out a tense sigh. I don't. And here I thought we'd started to get along at least a little bit after the karaoke. Himitsu, what happened? Why did she change schools and leave Tokyo in the middle of the school year? What? Is that a joke? I smiled idiotically, and Saya continued with even more pressure in her voice. Want to tell me you don't know? Figures. She got so fed up of you that she just ran away. What do you mean left Tokyo? Her house is... I turned around and looked across the road. The lights were off, and it seemed nobody was home. I instantly recalled yesterday's noise, Ryunosuke-san's shouts and the squeal of the tires of a departing car. I slowly sat down on the stairs next to Saya. Tell me everything. Our teacher told us today that Himitsu transferred to another school. He didn't want to say which one, but I'm the class representative and managed to find out that the school isn't in Tokyo. Where then? Saya said the name of the prefecture. Yeah, right. Himitsu said it had been taken to her grandmother, which meant that Ryunosuke didn't know about me eavesdropping on him a week ago. Otherwise, he would have chosen a different place. I know, Himitsu left. She's moved away. Things are just getting bad and badder. Wait, so you really didn't know? Saya asked seriously. Imagine that. Himitsu had things in her life that had nothing to do with me, for a while now. What could have happened that made her leave without even telling me? Do you really think you mean so much in her life? We're best friends, Saya protested. Then you should realize that she must have had a very good reason. But why? Then why then? I didn't reply. Looking in the direction where, as far as I imagine, her grandmother's village was, with the backup of the sunset, the buildings in the distance looked absolutely dark, the yellow sheen of the windows like stigmata, piercing them in places. Tokyo was reminding me of a ghost city from the novel I Am Legend. You know, from Will Smith, that movie that won't be released yet in this time period. Hey! The insurmountable influence of a third party. I replied vaguely and regretted that I hadn't brought anything to drink at the store. There you go again, acting like it has nothing to do with you. How am I supposed to act, huh? I lost my temper, but immediately fell silent, realizing that I couldn't explain anything to Saya without disclosing all the details. If you have something to say it to her father. It wasn't her decision. Wasn't her decision? Saya asked with surprise, then it made me even angrier. Of course it wasn't. You say you know her, or at least you believe so. Do you really believe she could just pack up and run away? Because it looks like running away, don't you think? Yes, running from you. So what, do you think I could have done to make her drop everything and run away? Just think about it. It's nonsense. If she could just leave that easily because of me, she would have done it long ago. And don't look at me like that. I know I'm not an idiot. So then what happened? Whatever happened, happened, and there's no way of fixing it now. Are you sure? Maybe now is the best time. I turned to Saya. She seemed to be talking to herself. If all you're saying, if it's true, then now is the time to prove your sincerity. This isn't a nightly tournament. Yeah, you're right. Maybe you finally got the chance to get rid of the constant attention from Himitsu and be together with that foreign girl or whoever you want to be with. Himitsu was giving you so much trouble with all her breakfasts, dinners, bento, constant lectures, and care for you. Enough! Her words were painfully jabbing at my heart. What, feeling uncomfortable? Why, that's what you've been trying to achieve with everything you've done. Suddenly, she stood up and looked me up and down with pity in her eyes. Or would you say I'm wrong? I was quiet, unable to raise my eyes. I have nothing else to say. Saya left and I kept sitting on the stairs, lonely and broken. The truth is still the truth, even if it's not said aloud. But God spare me, sometimes it's better to not remember it at all. I decided to not cook dinner, dropping the groceries in the kitchen without even putting them in the fridge, and fell into bed. That conversation with Saya finished me off. Her words echoed in my head with a dull pain. I really had been constantly irritated by Himitsu's meddling. And deep inside, I probably didn't want her to stand in the way of my relationship with Catherine. Well, now she really wasn't. There was no Catherine, no relationship, no Himitsu. Not in my life. And it wasn't even important who initiated Himitsu's move, her father or her, after catching Catherine at my place. Probably for the first time in my life, I didn't care about the reasons anymore. What did they matter anyway? Himitsu had always been around as a loyal friend, as a loving sister and caring mother, as a patient wife and a grandma always ready to spoil. Now she was gone. Had I ever thought about what Himitsu felt, even once in my life? Yes, occasionally I was ashamed of my behavior and attitude toward her, but that's not the same thing. How does it feel to spend years next to the person you love and realize that for him, you are something like a combination of a kitchen unit, a washing machine, a vacuum cleaner, and an old grunting radio gramophone? I was a bastard, not only because I was taking Himitsu's love for granted, but first and foremost because I couldn't give a final answer to either of those, either to her or to myself. Now it seemed to me that she would have understood if I had said that I loved Catherine and couldn't continue playing family any longer. After all, she had been doing all this only when the hope that I would reciprocate had still been alive somewhere deep in her heart. If I had killed that hope, no matter how cruel it would have been to her in the moment, Himitsu could have moved on, and in the end she could have broken free of this vicious cycle and then, who knows, possibly found happiness. But that was what I should have done a long, long time ago, and now, as I realized it more and more clearly, my only desire was to bring her back. I'd only spent a couple of days without Himitsu, only spent a couple days with the realization that I was lonely, irreparably and forever, and I finally understood so much. They say that a fool doesn't learn even from his own mistakes. I always thought that pain was the best stimulus and teacher. The feeling of danger, the fear of the unknown, the dread of losing someone meaningful. In our modern society, they replace instincts refined over millions of years, instincts necessary for survival. I lost Himitsu, and it made me feel like a caveman who left his lair in the morning to find his fruit grove destroyed by a hurricane. Had he thought just yesterday that this grove was perhaps his only source of food? Had he cherished it, taken care of it, watered it? Such thoughts never even crossed his mind. Suspended in half dream, my memory was again and again returning to the moments where we were happy. I remembered how we met. Our first day at middle school, the first time we were making a snowman. 10 years fell away like beads from a broken jar. Himitsu most likely remembered more than I. After all, remembering details is a typical feminine trait. But for her, every day that had been a part of an endless gray background to me bloomed with different colors, stroke after stroke. Washing clothes, cleaning, breakfast, lunch, dinner, into everything she did for the person she loved, she was putting a tiny bit of herself, things that were empty and pointless from my perspective, the perspective of a person who was only thinking about his own place in the world due to lacking any other worries, were filled with meaning only she could stand. The greater meaning, not the monolithic one, like the philosophical verity, but rather comprised of an endless amount of tiny daily duties. Just like atoms are comprised of particles, molecules are comprised of atoms, and the warm weather sweater Himitsu knitted for me for New Year's is comprised of her love. My love for Catherine was a manifestation of the greater feeling, an ideal image of romanticism, beyond any boundaries or conditions. That love looked at the necessity to buy groceries, cook, water dishes, and iron shirts with condensation. It was self-centered concept, a neutron star, accumulating a tremendous amount of energy inside. It didn't and couldn't understand daily routines and worries. It despised thoughts of the practical, the earthly. I sunk so deep into this greater feeling that I completely lost my ground, reality, and was just floundering in the air, unable to stand on my own 2 feet. Moreover, that love was doing perfectly well without a real object. After all, I loved that Katya from my memories, not the Catherine who once again entered my life 3 weeks ago. And that love was disgusting by the very thought that its existence was based on bodiless, a phantom of an ideal image. Its purpose wasn't the result, but the process, and its fruit was suffering. That's how a writer loves his unfinished book, how a painter loves his incomplete painting. Love and hate at the same time, after completing it, putting down the final dot or making the last brushstroke, or letting it go, all covering his or her blood and sweat. The piece will live its own life through the perception of each spectre, while the creator will remember how it was in the process of creation. A grain of an idea in its conception, an empty canvas at the beginning. Will remember all the pain and suffering that were required to let it go in the end and trust other people with it. Some can only make one great masterpiece in a lifetime. For me, that masterpiece was still my love for Catherine, and I was stubbornly refusing to notice the base of my colossus was, with even greater effort and necessity, supported and strengthened by the quiet, obedient, and eternally loyal love of Himitsu. Perhaps it was time to complete my masterpiece. Not to forget, no, something like that is unforgettable, but to let it go, retaining the best memories of it inside, and finally return to the sinful earth with its little problems, to find myself again, to once again meet the one who had always been around and move on together, choosing one of the many paths forward. I cried, but those were not tears of sorrow or desperation. I was crying because of happiness, and a new feeling was flowing down from my eyes, as if my heart, beating 100 times faster, was purging overheated cooling fluid. Perhaps this love wouldn't be described in novels, become a muse for poets, or find its honorable place in textbooks dedicated to philosophy. But for me, it was no less important than the love I had just let go, because without it, I would never realize what is really mattered to me in life. Welp. That's rough, bro. Day 26. Mother fudger. Woke up with a heavy head, feeling like I had been on a drinking spree, but the physical condition matters so little. I was always more occupied by global issues, hardly ever thinking in terms of days or weeks. But now, when all I had left was a couple thousand yen, I had learned how to live life for the present again. I washed myself, made breakfast, ate it, washed the dishes, and started thinking, perceiving the Saturday silence in my house somehow anew. Maybe I could sell it, but I didn't even know who it was registered to. It was unlikely I was listed as a proprietor. They say Russians are wise in hindsight, and indeed the longer I thought, the more I started to understand. Answers came from nowhere, giving birth again to questions I had been waving off before. How could I have been so naive? Sure, could drop out of school, find a job. I would most likely have enough money to survive, but would it really be a life? Would it be what my parents had wanted for me? Parents! After all, I had other relatives. I dashed to the hall and started feverishly flipping through the pages of the phone book. Here it was, my grandparents' telephone number in the USSR. During the funeral, they kept asking me to come back with them. But at the time I couldn't even imagine how I could abandon everything here and go to a country I only remembered as a drawing in a children's book. The unfamiliar dial tone of an international call. The dial tones are different from normal ones. Cool. I wondered what time it was there. Then familiar repeating beeps. Maybe I dialed the wrong number. However, the same thing happened the second and third times. What was I doing wrong? Definitely used to talk to them using this exact phone number. After a few more unsuccessful attempts, the feeling of powerlessness became unbearable. I immediately remembered my thoughts the day before. Thoughts about Himitsu. Would I really have to let her go forever? Fly thousands of kilometers away without any hope of seeing her again? But that wouldn't be better for everyone. It would be better for her. True love is first and foremost about caring for the happiness of the person you love. And that new feeling of mine would mean nothing if I was willing to put my desires above her safety. Himitsu would be better off without me. My phone, having persistently ignored all my attempts to contact the USSR, suddenly rang by itself. Hello? After a pause, I decided to take the call. Shino-san has ordered delivery to the same address. A stranger's voice told me from the other end. You got the wrong number. I barely managed to reply. So that's where Ichinose disappeared when I needed him. I didn't even find it suspicious that the call came during the day. I quickly got dressed and ran outside. Ryunosuke-san had made it clear Japanese intelligence were no longer interested in me, but unfortunately, they weren't the only ones I had to worry about, so I couldn't abandon caution. I wandered about for about an hour, trying to lose any possible tales. Finally, I took a train to the waterfront. Forever, Mafia babe. Maybe we'll see her at the end of the story for all we know. Finally, I took a train to the waterfront. No one followed me. The day was unusually warm considering it was the end of September. Hot sea air reminded me of summer. A salty breeze blew from the ocean, and I squinted, exposing my face to the rays of the scorching sun. You're punctual. Uh-oh. A familiar voice brought me to my senses. I opened my eyes and saw Irina. We were the ones who called you. Ichinose. I didn't finish the sentence. His fate is the last thing you should be concerned about right now. So that's how you take care of your compatriots. Let's take a walk. Irina took me by the arm and dragged me deeper into the fishing district, further from the train station. Shall I remind you that you're still a citizen of the USSR? I don't care about your sophistry. What clever words. Don't forget that you were born in that country. So what? She showed no reaction to my rudeness. So why am I here? I thought I made myself clear when I said that you should behave as usual, that you should lay low. Initiative is punishable, as our saying goes. It's quite hard to lay low and try to find something on Ito at the same time. So you found something. Let's say I did. I was improvising, diving headfirst into the world of spies, the rules of which I knew nothing about. I wasn't scared, in the first place because I simply didn't fully grasp what my words could lead to. Besides, impromptus were usually my strength, maybe due to some kind of innate intuition. I had nothing to lose or risk except for my life, and that was giving me extra confidence. In this case, my friend, would you bother to explain why the Japanese have lost interest in you so suddenly? And why Ito took his daughter away from Tokyo? Because they think I know nothing, and that really is the case. But before that, I had some time to poke around Himitsu's house. And Irina was glaring through a hole straight through me. Where are my guarantees? What kind of guarantees do you want? I don't even know what you found there. Something that might interest you. She took her time to reply, clearly thinking of all possible options. I'm listening. Firstly, you will guarantee Himitsu safely and Ito subsequently. Irina kept staring at me, not a single muscle twitching on her focused face, so it took quite an effort not to stutter. Next, I want to return to the USSR. There's nothing keeping me here anymore. Is that all? She finally said, having realized I was done. Yes. I can't make decisions like that on my own, especially without having seen the documents. I'll have to take my word on this, otherwise you'll never get a chance to see them. You're clever, although I knew right away you were capable of something like this. Any means you are good enough to save your own life. Alrighty. I'll see you later, Mafia babe. See you tonight, hopefully. Have fun at the store! See ya. Any means are good enough to save your own life. Fine, so what do you imagine from here? There was something I hadn't given much thought. Let's say I will give you the documents at the plane ladder. What? Don't want to take a ferry to Vladivostok? A joyful spark appeared in her eyes, just like back then in the bar. You have no documents, never did, and you are of no value to anyone anymore. Neither to us nor the Japanese. So the only advice I can give you is not to try to contact the USSR anymore or bother Ito. Just live like all Japanese do and forget about everything that's happened. And consider it a gift from your motherland and me personally. It would have been much easier to get rid of you. A lovely gift indeed, but I've got something for you as well. Thank you, Ichinose. Soviet fourth generation ballistic missiles. Ring a bell? I stared triumphantly at her, even raising my head a bit to look taller. Irina clearly had a hard time keeping a straight face. Perhaps, she said abruptly and stopped at a beach. I kept observing her gestures, movements, and facial expressions. It seemed like I actually had something I couldn't have learned by myself. Something that made her really interested. But she was afraid to show it. Let me know that I acquired an ace. I need some time to discuss everything with HQ. She said coldly and took a seat. Wonderful, I could use a break as well. I take it you are tapping my phone? She nodded. In that case, when I call my grandparents again, that will be as the signal. It'll mean I'm ready to continue our conversation. Irina raised her head and continued and smiled unexpectedly. Well, good luck, Nikolai. We're on the train! Woo! I think I'm going to pause it here on the train. Once in the station, I was hit with a cold sweat. Yes, I was. Let's see our little updates. Let's go to the main menu. No, not load game. Main menu. Let's see all the wee little updates we got. The gallery. Yeah, a lot more songs. Backgrounds. A fair few more. I'm still missing a lot though, wow. And CG. One here, bunch here, a lot here. Oh man. Missing a whole lot of stuff. Oh my gosh, guys. Well, who knows how much longer this game is. Maybe it'll be like one more stream, maybe 20 streams. But, we'll see next time, huh? We'll continue this tomorrow. Thank you all for coming, and I'll see you all very, very, very soon. I have a Tomb Raider game to play, by the way, so I'm gonna do that now. Bye-bye!